But if I go play from start, I don't see you, which also isn't terrible either. Fuck it, we'll be faceless.
I think that's fine.
All right.
Two faces for radio anyway.
Seriously. All right, welcome back to a Nothing Near Post show here. Excited this week. We've got a guest, but also a co-host, which we're fired up to have here. Going to talk a little bit about the conference pictures, how they're shaping up across the country. We got a quick load of high, but most of the time we're going to be focused on those end of season conference jockeying for position, if you will. All right, but super excited to introduce my co-host here for this evening, and hopefully going forward for a couple episodes. This guy's got he's got a ton of experience in the lacrosse world, but without further ado, super excited to welcome on a Baldwinsville, New York native. Shout out to 315, a proud Lemoyne Dolphin, a three-time national championship finalist as a player, first team all-conference draw man in 2011, the 2011 Face-Off Specialist of the Year nationally, a USILA first-team All-American, a Charlotte Hound and a New York Lizard alumni of the MLL of old, coaching stints at WAC with back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances, UVA, Ohio State, where he was part of their Memorial Day weekend run, playing in the title game in 2017, and his face-off unit was number 4 in the country at the end of that year, and with the Hartford Hawks, where he led the offense to their highest goals per game average in 7 years, and most importantly, the dad to two awesome boys who are destined to be incredible face-off guys, Corey Bulken. Welcome to the Nothing Near Post show. It's great to have you.
It's good to be here. Thanks. It's all downhill from here after that intro, and my boys will never take a face off. So we're good. No,
we're not taking draws. Is that because of hand speed or because of the trauma that you went through and you want to protect them?
No, one of them's a lefty already. It's incredible. My oldest one's a lefty, and the younger one is reckless. He's a long stick midi without a doubt. So we're excited for that.
Lovely. Lovely. All right. Well, we got a full episode here tonight. Okay. Like I said from the top, we're looking at the conference, the way things are shaking out across the country. But we got to start with a couple line drills. Actually, let's skip line drills. Unless, Coach Bulken, how was your week? We got anything going on this week?
Man, the weather's finally turning down here in Maryland, and we have projects all over the house to attend to. So we moved into a new house about 3 years ago, and we finally get our feet under us a little bit. And we're adding a patio, a new driveway. It's big time stuff in the suburbs here. It's great.
Love that. You doing your own masonry work or what?
No. As much as I think my toxic trait is like thinking that I could do it all until I like walk it out with a professional. I'm like, oh yeah, this is impossible. So.
Yeah, I was just actually talking with a coworker of mine with the full-time gig who lives in the suburbs, and he said he was having garage beers last night with his wife, and I was like, living in the city, I haven't seen a garage, I don't think, in like 7 years, so I didn't, it brought me back to my upstate New York days.
Mm-hmm. The many perks of the suburb life, so, I'm sure you had plenty of those living out in New Hartford.
No doubt. Cool. Yeah, I think on this side, Boston, we're supposed to get some decent weather this weekend. Nothing crazy this week. Yeah, not much to report in the line drills area. But if we move on here quickly, low to high. All right, 2 quick items here I want to talk about with low to high. All right, first and foremost, with both Coach Bulken and I being upstate dudes, we couldn't not bring up Hayden Todd. Okay, Hayden Todd, starting netminder for SUNY Canton, the Ruse, I think, right?
The Ruse.
I don't think I've ever seen a kangaroo in Canton, New York, but hey, our boy Hayden Todd, 35 stops against SUNY Cortland back on April 12th. That's insane.
Yeah.
I also know that this 35 put him over the 500 career saves mark. So nothing near post certainly salutes Hayden Todd. Coach Bulken, any thoughts on this?
I mean, standing in, with a heavy shot deficit against a team like Cortland, obviously always top of the SUNYAC. It's props to that kid and props to, the coach for leaving him in there. I don't know. I've never been a goalie. We've talked about that, but I can't imagine being the backup and wanting to go into that game.
To be honest with you, I just saw this stat. I didn't actually look at the box score. I hate to say it, the Roos are having a rough go of it so far. Final score in this game was 30-3. I can only imagine if Hayden didn't have 35, what would have happened? Like
to give up 30 and be over 50%.
Oh my God, I didn't even think of it that way.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're looking for silver linings here for our boy, and that's it. And again, like props to him, he battled in there.
A full 60 minutes. I don't. Does he? I wonder if he even has a backup. Full 60, 30 goals against, 35 saves.
Went the distance, dude. I mean, the thing about this, and this is no dig, with the shot clock and everything like that, no dig at Cortland. There's kids getting in there that are trying to score their first points, and I think just like the level of excitement for some of those kids to get into maybe their first college game and, smell a little blood in the water, be able to, try to put one home. Like this kid bought everything off. You could tell.
Oh man, insane. Over 50% and you gave up 30.
Hey,
that's got to be a record.
Props.
Seriously. All right, moving on. Low to high. Next piece here. I watched a little bit of the UNC Duke game, obviously an 8-7 final, a little bit of a snoozer to defensive battle, if you will. But I just wanted to shout out Anish Sharoff, one of the more underrated media guys in lacrosse. I think he loves the game. I think he enjoys calling it, which is really cool. But he had a line in the third quarter. Okay. Duffy scored off an assist. Petramala scored off an assist from Duffy, and he drops the J.G. Wentworth. He called UNC offense the J.G. Wentworth connection between Duffy and Petro, 877 cash now. And if I was any good at this whole podcasting thing, I'd have the video or the commercial pulled up. But shout out Anish Sharoff. Did you have eyes on the Duke UNC game this Saturday?
I didn't. Was that a later game in the day?
I think so. I think it was a 4:00 start, so I think we all had eyes on Cuse Cornell.
Yeah, that's the witching hour. But no, I think I was trying to watch Cuse Cornell while attending to my dad duties. But I tracked that score. And, I don't know if UNC ever trailed from what I could see, but I like UNC just given the fact that they find ways to win games all different ways. You look at their scores. They got a grad senior from Cornell, actually, Spencer Wertheim, Baldwinsville guy. Shout out, piece. Spencer's a crafty lefty. He's more of an attackman, but I think he's running more midfielder for them down at UNC this year.
Sure. Yeah, if you look back at it, actually Duke was up 5-3 at halftime.
Okay. It shows how much I was paying attention.
Yeah, Duke's up 5-3 at half. UNC rips off 3 to go up 6-5 in the third. Liam Kershus, great freshman for the Dukies, scores off an assist from Jack Pappendick to make it 6-6, and then the J.G. Wentworth connection with 2:27 left in the third period. Dom Petronella from Owen Duffy to make it 7-6, and the Carolina boys never looked back after that. But yeah, 8-7's weird, and you're totally right. They win games in a variety of different ways. Because I mean, last week they beat Virginia. They doubled them up 18-7 or something like that, and yeah, they can score when they need to. They can defend when they need to. I love the Paul Barton kid back there defensively for Carolina, but we'll get to what's left on their schedule here as we get into the conference previews. But yeah, so in this game, obviously with the JG Wentworth connection, Duffy was 1-1, Petro was 2-0, so nothing really staggering. But this line, this JG Wentworth line, got me thinking a little bit. And Anish, I think, is a pure professional. And I'm not here to dog anybody, but you compare this to some of the Booker Corrigan stuff, and I just can't. I just can't get on board. I mean, there was a line in there that didn't even seem safe for kids, and I don't know if this is made for kids, but there was a quote in there. He hit him with hit the pipe harder than Hunter Biden and Dewey Beach, and I'm like, come on, man,
Hey,
come on, man.
yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know about that.
Uh,
Hey, we're like, nonpartisan podcast over here. I feel like let's not get into the politics of it all, but yeah, I think the drug use, I'm good on that.
yeah. Although it was behind a paywall, so probably nobody was watching. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I mean, if we're gonna touch on that game just quickly, and I want to because it was a 1 versus 4 matchup. I think that just deserves better.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Mitchell Field in Uniondale in the shadow of the Coliseum, which I will never call by its new name. There's got to be. I mean, there's got to be a better venue for that. But hey, what am I? I'm sitting at home on my couch, so that is what it is.
Look, I think it makes sense for a few reasons to go play a game on Long Island for both of those schools, given the fact like they dig up a ton of talent from there. But you're right. Like for one of these teams to give up a home game, I forget who was supposed to have the home game this year. Cuse. I mean, man, it sucks because you're right. Like if you're going to commandeer that game as Corrigan did, they I'm sure they were they kickstarted this and booked the fields and everything. Like they put on a production for the kids and the teams and brought them down. But to put it behind a paywall, which is one thing, and it was a pretty rough broadcast to be completely honest. So I think not having a great call on the game, not a lot of production value, and that the camera work was pretty rough. So it was not what I think, like you said, like a 1 versus 4 matchup, and I think not enough people saw the game. It was too bad.
Yeah, and I think everybody wants to dog the PLL, but I'll tell you one thing: the PLL cares about the way that their product is pushed out to their fans, and hopefully the new fans that they're grabbing. And I think this was a huge miss for college lacrosse.
Yeah, I think there's so many people trying to get a piece of it, and for a production company to come in and cherry pick games away from people being able to watch, because that that would have been on the ECC network. Everybody been able to watch it. Have you seen a highlight online from that game?
I don't think so.
It's that kind of falls on Corrigan too, probably a little bit. That's not helping the cause, I think, a little at all. And they've had, what was the other game they did? Was that one down in Texas, right?
Duke Denver,
and Denver won that game, right?
Denver destroyed them.
Yeah, I mean, luckily we didn't miss any classics. I think obviously there's some offensive fireworks in the Cornell Cuse game, and I think CJ Curse and the Cuse offense are appointment viewing no matter what. So
you'd think there'd be a highlight somewhere of the. I've been pretty open on this podcast, but the future Tewaaraton winner CJ Curse going 5-3. You'd think there'd be a highlight in there somewhere that got pushed out.
Yeah, outside of what the schools and their content teams do for themselves. So, yeah, I mean, you're not going to get any argument out of me about CJ winning the Tewaaraton.
Love that. All right, enough of that. Like you said, we're here to lift the game up, not bring it down. With that, we're going to jump into our conference previews. All right, I believe we've got every conference laid out. Hopefully we didn't disrespect anybody. Okay, but we're going to start with the ASUN. And something sometimes I like to call it the A-Fun. All right. The way we're going to do this is sort of a quick overview of what the tournament setup is, how many teams get in, sort of how it's all going to play out. We'll talk about the reigning champs, and then we'll look at the current standings and sort of what they've got left on their schedule. All right, and then we'll riff off of that. So starting in the A-Fun, okay, the reigning champs are the Utah Utes or Salt Lake City. They won last year over Jacksonville for their second ASUN championship. All right, the way that the A-Fun works, 4 teams get in. They play Friday night, Sunday. So Friday night semis, Sunday finals. And it's at a predetermined location. This year, Duval will be the host. The Jacksonville squad will be the hosts for the A-Fun tournament. All right. Any thoughts on ASUN going down to Jacksonville as their host this year?
So John Galloway and I grew up same era, just behind you. So I've known JG for a long time. Obviously, he's one of the best to do it in cage, and he actually brought me down to check it out last fall, so about a year and a half ago now. And I got to sit in with them and their coaches for a whole weekend as they got fall ball kicked off, and just kind of gave them a little bit of insight about, just some coaching stuff on the face-off side of things. But, in terms of like their setup and everything like that, like they can run a 4-team tournament, no problem. There's schools out there that would stress, a facility, and it would be, kind of tight to get things figured out. Like they got room to run out there. They've got plenty of field space, and it's a pretty cool venue to go watch a game too. So, I think, setting it up in a place where it really makes sense to run a conference tournament, it's definitely a place that can kind of handle that load.
That's great. And I think, I don't think you have to worry about the weather down there. I know Coach Brzezinski a couple weeks ago made a comment on the outfits that those guys either they're wearing themselves or other people around campus are wearing throughout the spring, where the rest of us, well, not you so much down in Maryland, but us up here in the New England area, we're still in parka season. So Duval is going to be a great host, I think, for sure. But if we look at the standings right now as it stands, Utah sits at 3-0, Jacksonville sits at 2-1. Air Force sits at 2-1. Mercer sits at 1-4. Mercer sits at 1-2. Bellarmine sits at 1-2. That was the tequila talking. Utah 3-0. Their remaining games are at Queens, at Air Force. Jacksonville at home against Bellarmine, home against Mercer. Air Force at Mercer, home against Utah. Mercer home against Air Force, at Jacksonville. Bellarmine at Jacksonville, home against Queens. If you sort of break that down, I personally think Utah holds serve, becomes the 1 seed. Jacksonville holds serve, becomes the 2 seed, but they have home field advantage, obviously. Air Force goes 1-1 with a win over Mercer and a loss to Utah. They get the 3. And I personally think Mercer goes 0-2 down the stretch, even though they're hosting Air Force and then they're at Jacksonville. They go 0-2 to drop to 1-4 because Bellarmine's going to jump them, find a way to beat Queens at home to end their regular season and sneak into the 4 spot. What's your take there?
I don't know. Like I've gotten to watch Bellarmine a little bit. I've gotten to watch Air Force a few times. I've gotten to watch Jacksonville and Utah. Not as much Mercer. So I'm not 100% on that, but like, your breakdown, kind of how that shakes out. I think Bellarmine's got the juice to go 1-1 here. I also think that Mercer can. I think from watching Air Force and seeing some of Mercer scores, I think the level of competition they played outside of the conference is maybe a little bit higher than what Air Force has done. So I'm gonna lean into Mercer a little bit. I'm gonna go against you.
That would
in that Air Force Mercer game.
That would create. Then that's this weekend. That would create some chaos because if Mercer beats Air Force, loses to Jacksonville, Bellarmine loses to Jacksonville, beats Queens. I'd have to look and see who's got the head-to-head there, because that would be the way that it would have to go, I would assume.
I'll tell you in a second.
Yeah, if we pull that up quick, it looks like. Uh, did I
Where's
miss
my,
it?
come on.
Air Force. Well, they're
Air
playing this weekend.
Right. No, but so we're looking at who do we need to see? What was the game that we talked about? Air Force
So
and
Mercer Bellarmine.
not Mercer Bellarmine, yeah.
So Bellarmine's got the head-to-head 17-14 in Louisville. So
Mercer has, yeah,
Mercer has the head-to-head
yeah.
with the
Look,
win over Bellarmine.
so you've got to win it outright. You can't tie them.
So if Mercer wins one, they're in.
Yeah. So they got to go 1-1, which
They can do.
Yeah, and again, like you look down the stretch here, the last few games, like they're in it everywhere they go. I just think, obviously Utah, that's a little bit more of a spread, but no wait, Bellarmine has I had it backwards. So okay,
Yes. The Bears lost to Bellarmine in Louisville, 17-14.
Okay. Okay, so Bellarmine's got to go 1-1.
Yeah, if Bellarmine wins one, they're the 4 seed. They're in.
Gotcha. Yeah.
What I think's crazy, looking towards the top of this, Utah's 4-7 overall, but 3-0 in the conference. Right now, the thing that makes me a little nervous for the Utes, and I'm a huge Drew McMinn fan, but I'll tell you what, I'm a bigger Coach Brzezinski fan. The Utes are 2-4 on the road this year. All right, 2-4 on the road this year, whereas Jacksonville's 3-1 at home. All right, with their only league loss coming to Utah in Salt Lake City. So Jacksonville has got to feel good about hosting this thing in Duval. Obviously, a lot to do until we get to that point, but certainly going to be an interesting sort of shakeout here at the end of the year.
No doubt. Well, Utah might have struggled a little bit on the road, but one of their remaining 2 games is Air Force. If ever there was a game that was going to feel like a home game for a place like Utah, it's Air Force.
Sure. All right. I don't think we need to make any predictions on the tournament, but certainly going to be interesting to see how that shakes out, especially for that 4 seed, because I think the other 3 are pretty much locked up. Yeah. Moving on. Patriot League. Okay. Patriot League. 6 teams get into the Patriot League conference tournament. The 1 and the 2 get a bye. Then 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. Quarterfinals are on Tuesday, hosted by the 3 and the 4 seeds. Semifinals are on Friday, May 2nd. Lowest remaining seed plays the 1. And then the Sunday's hosted by the 1 seed as well. Reigning champs are the Lehigh Mountain Hawks. They won last year at Army over the Boston University Terriers 11-10. And as it stands right now, Army's 5-1, BU is 4-2, and sorry, this is in ranking order. All right, Army's number 1 at 5-1, BU's in the 2 spot at 4-2, Lehigh is in the 3 hole at 4-2, Lafayette is in the 4 hole 4-3. Then you've got Colgate at 5 at 3-3, Navy at 6 at 3-3. I'm not even going to talk about the bottom 2, but there are 2 more teams. Or 3 more teams, and let's talk about them. I don't want to disrespect them. Bucknell having a little bit of a down year at 2-4. Then you got Loyola at 2-4, and then you've got the Holy Cross Crusaders who are battling the best that they can. So, I think if we look at it, Army's 2 games left are Bucknell and Loyola, both at home. I see them getting the 1 seed.
Yeah.
You got BU, okay, at home against Lehigh, and then home against Colgate. So it's great that they've got 2 home games. I think the Terriers are licking some wounds right now. I'm worried about them. They go 0-2. They're falling to 4-4 overall, and they're going to plummet in the standings. You got Lehigh at BU, already mentioned, and then home against Lafayette. If Lehigh can go 2-0, they get to 6-2 with the head-to-head over BU, and they're going to fly up that record up those standings. You got Lafayette at Lehigh, their last game left, so they're already at 4-3. And Lafayette has the head-to-head with BU. Colgate at 3-3, they get Holy Cross at home, and then they're on the road shooting down the thruway, which turns into the Mass Pike to play BU. If the Raiders can go 2-0, they get to 5-3, and I know there's a lot of ifs, but Navy sitting at 3-3 in that 6th spot is at Loyola and at Bucknell. All right. I mean, the midshipmen might have the most favorable road to get into 5-3, but Colgate still has the head-to-head against them. So, what thoughts you got as I sort of walk through what's coming for these Patriot League teams down the stretch?
Yeah, well, starting with Navy, I've gotten to see them play live this year. They are banged up, unfortunately. Their face-off guy that makes a lot of things go, is a kid named Zach Hayashi, who's awesome. He has been in and out. I don't even know if he played against Army, to be completely honest. I just know that was like a game that Navy really bounced back, like had Army on the ropes. And took them to overtime. And, again, obviously that's a game that it's different. They could both be 0-12, and that game would have been fireworks no matter what. But if Zach Hayashi is healthy, I 100% agree with that. Like, they can definitely go 2-0 down the stretch. If facing off is an issue, and I'm not saying that because I'm a face-off guy, but I watched them live against Lemoyne. Actually, Lemoyne was in town for their spring break trip, and Navy was kind enough to host. And Lemoyne was able to hang around because they were above 50% throughout the course of the game against Navy. You know what I mean? And they couldn't turn manufacture a lot of goals. But they, again, like a kid like Zach Hayashi, who's got like a little bit of juice, I think team really responds to him. So. Really interested to see. Actually, I'm just going to look it up just to see if he actually played, because I had heard some rumblings that he was going to try to, get healthy for that game, which obviously makes a ton of sense.
I got it here. He went 1 for 7, so probably not the return that he was looking for, but he definitely gave it a go.
Yeah. So again, like he's definitely not right. So again, that's. He was not dressed for that Lemoyne game that I watched a few weeks ago, so that makes sense.
And they've been up and down all year, the midshipmen. But I mean, you take an Army team to overtime. Now, granted, that matchup you can throw the records out the window. It doesn't matter what records are. It doesn't matter. Like, that's just the game. The only thing I'm worried about, right? Even though Bucknell and Loyola haven't been great in the league this year, Loyola found a way to pop off last week. I mean, shit, who knew Loyola had 21 goals in them over a 2-week span, let alone a 1-week span? I don't care who you're playing. Still a league opponent. But Navy has got to go on the road for these last two. And these last two are going to be huge for seeding. So really, really interesting there.
Hey, road games for service academies, though, that's like a vacation for those kids. So that's you don't you get a day off from school, you get to wear the sweats all day on the bus. Those kids are juiced. So you can't count that out.
Totally. If we go bottom to the top here, then we move into Colgate, who's also 3-3. They got Holy Cross, and then they're at BU. The Raiders were all the rage early in the year, right? Win over Harvard. They're flying high. They, they're rolling. They take on Villanova and they beat them 16-5. They get Loyola 18-6. They get Lafayette 19-14. There isn't a scoreboard with enough lights on it to contain the Raiders. And then they run into Bucknell and they give up 18 and lose 17-18. Run into the buzzsaw that is the Cuse, lose 16-12. And they've just kind of been up and down ever since, right? Beat Navy, great win in Hamilton, New York. Actually, I believe that one was their first home game, March 29th. That's not true. Bucknell was a home game as well. But lose to Army, lose to Lehigh, 12-9. A 12-9 loss to Lehigh and a 13-7 loss to Army. Where'd all the goals go, right? And which team are we going to get down the stretch here as far as lighting the lamp?
Yep. It's funny, Lehigh seems a little bit more offensively reserved this year than maybe in years past. Like, obviously, I think they're still talented, no doubt. But I think they lean on defense a little bit. Colgate loves to go. They love the 10-man ride. Judd loves the 10-man ride.
Coach
They live and
Latz.
die by it. And I always wonder, like, you run that 10-man all year, right? Like, everybody's practiced against it to this point of the year. Like, is it a rate of diminishing returns? Like, how much are we really getting out of it? Like, if you score 2 goals and you give up 2 goals, was it worth it? Because those goals that you score from the midfield or beyond, like, those are juice goals just as much as the ride back is on a 10-man.
Am I hearing some anti 10-man out of you?
You know what, man? I think it is. It's not anything. It's on my DNA. You know what I mean? Like, it's. And that's not a bad thing. I love watching it, but I also pull my hair out when I see teams struggle with it. You know what I mean?
Totally. You got that conservative West Jenny Coach Donahue in you a little bit from your Baldwinsville Bees days. So we won't hold that against you. I had 2 years with Coach Latz, and he injected it right into my veins. So as did Coach Salippo. Coach Salippo is a great 10-man guy as well. Because speaking of 10-man, BU does it as well, and they do it really well. But we got a long night here. Let's jump ahead. All right, we think Army's going to get the 1. All right, and then probably things will shape out. I mean, here's the thing. If BU goes 0-2, which they could, and I think also this is crazy. This is the gambler's corner a little bit. The BU win total for this year, DraftKings had it set at 8.5.
Ooh.
And I believe they're currently 8 and something, right?
Oh.
With 2 games left on their calendar. That's wild. They go 0-2. They drop to 4-4. That's a huge swing because I'm pretty sure that puts them in the 6th spot. Because Lafayette, if Lafayette loses to Lehigh, that puts them at 4-4 as well. But Lafayette's got the head-to-head. I'm assuming Navy goes 2-0. That puts them in the 4th spot at 5-3. I'm assuming Colgate can go 2-0 against Holy Cross, and we're assuming since BU's going 0-2, Colgate's going to get that win as well. Not saying that's going to happen, just an assumption. 5-3. And then with Lehigh beating Lafayette and BU, because again, we said BU was going 0-2, that puts Lehigh at 6-2, Army at 7-1. Where it gets crazy, and I can't keep up with it, is if Lehigh loses to Lafayette and a few other things fall in place, there's a scenario where Lehigh's 5-3, Colgate's 5-3, Navy's 5-3, and Lafayette is 5-3. Just the Patriot League, banana land, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Lehigh is going to slot into the 2 spot because they're 2-1 against Colgate, Navy, and Lafayette.
Yep.
And they've got a win over Colgate and Navy. So I think they go into the 2. But we got to keep eyes on this Lehigh Lafayette game, last game of the year of the Patriot League. I think that's going to be a good one.
That's what I know. They have a name for the rivalry, but like those schools are, they're big time rivals and everything. That's another one that schools get up for and kids go crazy. That game's been closer than it should be, way more times than maybe you would ever guess.
And let's give the Leopards some flowers here. They're on the up.
Oh yeah,
they're on the up. Coach Myers, pride of Wells, Maine. He's got something cooking, man. He's got something cooking, and usually that's a throwaway game. Usually it's like, all right, you can pencil in Lehigh, but not this year, man. Not this year. But
no, the Riley Sullivan kid, like he was at one point, like NCAA leader in points per game. He was lighting it up. So, for them to have a kid that's hanging in at the top of the charts there is pretty cool. Like that kid is legit. I watched a few Lafayette games. He can do a little bit of everything. He can score. He can get to the rack on his own. He loves to dodge, to feed. So he's got he's had a really good senior season. Another guy that stuck it out there, and every broadcast you listen to about Lafayette, they sing that kid's praises because he was not like a big time guy from day one there, which is pretty cool.
It's awesome. And I mean, last thing on this, BU Lehigh this weekend is going to be a big one because if BU can get 1, then they're feeling better, right? But if we're looking at that, the BU Lehigh matchup has been a 1-goal game 4 out of the last 5 meetings. And to be honest with you, I think this speaks to the chess match between two of the best young minds in the game, and the defensive guru and head coach for Lehigh now, Will Scudder, and then the offensive sharp, Coach Salippo of BU. I see that being a 1-goal game. I don't know what the spread looks like yet, but I'd take +1.5 either way. So
yeah, I think
should be a good one.
There. Lehigh, I think his name's Sean Dow. I know his last name's Dow. Face-off kid. He's having quietly one of the better face-off years in the country too.
The face-off dot that Mike Sisselberger built down there in the Lehigh Valley.
They beat into the ground. Yeah.
All right, that's enough Patty League. We're gonna be here all night, but hey, hopefully people are still listening to us here as we roll forward. But let's go to the Big East. Okay, let's go to the Big East. I almost put the Big East basketball logo on this slide just because I am such a huge fan of old school Big East hoops. But RIP. But nonetheless, all right, the Big East. Okay, 4 teams get in. So 1 through 4 get in. I will say the Big East website, Championship Central, is out of date. I need them to step their game up. Reigning champion is your Georgetown Hoyas, which was their 6th straight last year. They had an OT win over Villanova on the main line at the Cat's Den. They were able to beat Loyola last year in OT for their 6th straight Big East championship. Current standings right now, Villanova, surprisingly to some, not to nothing near post, because we know we're a Coach Miller stan podcast here, but
we are Coach Miller fans.
Huge fans. Villanova's sitting at 3-0. Georgetown sitting at 2-1 in the 2-hole. Denver 2-1 in the 3-hole. Marquette 1-2 in the 4-hole, and Providence 1-2 in the 5-hole. Again, 4 teams get in. Okay, Villanova, 2 games left, home against Marquette, and then they're at Georgetown. Georgetown at St. John's, and then home against Nova. Denver, home against Providence, at Marquette. Marquette is at Nova, and then home against Denver. And then Providence at Denver, home against St. John's. Okay. I'm really high on the Cats. And I know I'm a little bit of a homer here because I'm a huge Coach Miller fan, but they're playing good ball. All right, down the stretch here to be 3-0 in the conference. Yeah, they do have Georgetown left, but I mean 3-0 in that conference with a win over Denver in Denver, and I believe Denver is coming off a Duke win. So that there's something to be said for that. But what's your take here on the Big East as you look at that?
No, I think it's crazy. Like you look at the top 2 teams right now, Georgetown, Villanova. Maybe not the best out of conference records, but in a conference like the Big East, you're at a conference is all window dressing. Unless you can run the table, beat everybody in your schedule. If you're Georgetown, you got the road to the NCAA tournament goes through your conference slate, and to see Villanova really trying to turn the page here, once they got into conference season, because Denver can hang with anybody, especially if you look at the teams that Villanova's played, that is one of the better teams on their schedule up until that point. So it's really cool to see, a team like Villanova kind of round into form. Looking at their scoring, it's super balanced. They've got, they don't have a lot of they don't have a 60, they don't even have a 30-point guy right now. But they're finding ways to hang in with some really good teams, which is really cool to see. Obviously, they're getting it done on defense too. Like we said, shout out Coach Miller. And then, I think Georgetown is always going to be in the mix there. Having the 1 seed decided on the last game of the season is definitely significant. That would be awesome to see. Nova and Georgetown potentially evening each other's record out one way or the other would be pretty cool.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have eyes on that one. Last week of the season, it's actually a Friday night game. Let's go. Let's get a little Friday night lights going.
There you go.
April 25th, 7 p.m. in the nation's capital.
Is that going to be
CBS Sports Network? So everybody gets to watch
there
it.
We go. That's what we need. We don't need Flow Sports
No.
mucking it up. We don't
We
need
need it.
Denver's pay-per-view.
We
All right.
need it. We need it.
Uh,
I will say,
Nova.
if I can chime in on Nova real quick, start of the year 2-5, and I think you were being nice, to be honest with you, calling them a balanced scoring attack. I just don't think they were throwing the ball in the net very much. Hence why nobody's a 30 goal scorer, 30-point scorer, whatever it is. But start of the year 2-5, they've come into their own. Okay, they've ripped off 4 straight. Win over Brown, OT win over Denver at Mile High, a win over Providence on the road, and then a win over St. John's at home. Alumni Day. I believe Danny Seibel was in town.
Yep.
Shout out Seibs. So, I mean, to be honest with you, what have you done for me lately? And the Cats have ripped off 4 straight. And I was able to pull this up. So 4 teams get in, predetermined site. Last year it was at Villanova. This year, whoever gets in is headed back to the Mile High City.
Oh.
So the Denver Pios are hosting this year on CBS Sports Network. So going to be an interesting one. I mean, let's be Villanova stands, all right? Villanova goes 2-0, Georgetown goes 1-1, Denver goes 2-0, Marquette goes 0-2, and Providence goes 1-1. All right, and that's where it gets interesting, right? Marquette goes 0-2 against Nova and Denver. Both Nova and Denver need those wins to keep pace with each other. Providence needs a win probably to get in, but they're at Denver. Good luck. And then they're home against St. John's. St. John's ain't playing for much. I'm sorry to say it, Johnny's, but not playing for much there.
Coach T, they're frisky this year. They've hung in some games.
Right.
You know, they've got some. Again, like in the Big East too. You know, they're making their way, and I think like they're not going to discount an opportunity to play. And Providence too, like Coach Benson and the whole staff there. They've done a really good job. They've been really awesome to watch.
Really?
They would tell you that they're not there yet, but they never would. So I think they're in the year or two, Providence is definitely going to make a little bit more noise than they have right now.
Totally. Is the Ryan Bell kid still cooking for the Friars?
Oh yeah, Ryan Bell. He's knocking on a 50-point season right now.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's the definition of size doesn't matter, which we love.
Yep.
Dude, how about that? 11 goals, 38 assists for 49 points.
Yo, make him beat you and score a goal, guys. What are we doing?
I mean, that, or do you think Richie Joseph and Jack Horrigan are buying Ryan Bell's beers all weekend? Because Richie Joseph's 30-9 and Jack Horrigan's 30-8. So clearly Ryan Bell's doing something for those two.
Well, he's putting their name in the paper, that's for sure.
They better be returning the favor in Friartown. But all right, let's say my projections play out right. That leaves us Nova 5-0, Denver 4-1, Georgetown 3-2, Providence 2-3, leaving Marquette out. Okay, so even though Marquette's ahead of Providence right now, I'm saying Marquette goes 0-2, Providence goes 1-1. They sneak in as the 4 seed. If Nova loses to Georgetown, they're all 1-1 against each other. They all beat Providence, and when I say against each other, I mean Nova, Denver, and Georgetown, because that would put them all at 4-1. They all are 1-1 against each other. They all beat Providence, Marquette, and St. John's. I've got the Big East tiebreaker, but I think I need to learn how to read Mandarin to be able to figure this out. I think it's going to come down to goal differential with a maximum of 7 goals per game.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure we got enough time to go through that right now, but
not math guys, no.
No, we're definitely not math guys, but definitely keep an eye on that. I'm keying in on that.
Is that conference only games though? It better be, right?
Yeah, so it's of the mini. They call it the mini conference.
Oh, so the 3 teams that are tied.
Correct.
Oh.
Correct.
Those are tight games too.
Yeah, because we could do it quick. You look at the Villanova Denver game was a 1-goal game, right?
Denver beat Georgetown 7-3.
Denver beat Georgetown 7-3.
What happened there? Okay,
and that's not the only 7-3 game this year. Loyola had a 7-3 game against Lehigh, right? Jesus, rock fights.
Okay,
So that's a 4, and then Georgetown and Nova have to play each other. So we've got a lot to play out here, because
The
Denver's
scores of the games are going to be really important.
huge.
Yeah,
So yeah, you got to key in on that Villanova Georgetown game at the end of the year. That's the one. That's the linchpin. That's the linchpin in my opinion. So,
yeah, I agree.
but I'm saying Nova, Denver, Georgetown, Providence are going to be the ones shipping out to the Mile High City to compete on CBS Sports Network. We love to see the Big East, getting away from Flow Sports at the end of the year and getting on national television, because that's some good lacrosse. All right, let's move on. The NEC.
Yes.
I think you've got to drive this conversation, Coach Bulken.
Yeah, I've watched maybe more NEC ball than anybody this year. So
All right, well let me set the stage for you. Top 4 get in from the NEC Thursday, May 1st, Saturday, May 3rd, hosted by the 1 seed, the reigning champ. Not applicable. All right, the NEC in his first year back. Okay, current standings: Lemoyne 5-0, Bobby Moe 5-0, LIU 3-2, VMI 2-3, Detroit Mercy 2-3, Cleveland State 2-3. And a fun fact: even though Mercyhurst is at the bottom of the pile, they are not eligible for the tournament this year. So maybe that was intentional. They didn't want to sort of put themselves in that position. But I found that interesting. So, floor is yours, Mr.
yeah.
Lemoyne Dolphin.
Look, I think the schedule is broken out favorably for Lemoyne. I think they've gotten to ramp up in terms of the level of play as they get work through their conference schedule. So they've got a big one, LIU, who I think was predicted to win the conference ahead of the season starting. I think they had a tough one. They lost to Wagner. Gave up one to Daddy Wags. Shout out Coach Fox.
Shout out.
Again, it's one of these conferences. You start to get to a point where some wacky shit can happen. And, I think Lemoyne leans on their defense big time. They actually made a goalie change right going into the VMI game. VMI was a big win for them. And kid, last name is Winger. I think it's Lucas Winger. Kid has been phenomenal. Lights out since they started conference play. He stood on his head against Navy. And I think he's a guy that, talking to Coach Sheehan, kids love playing in front of him, which is all you can ask for as a goalie, as you might know. So they've got their 2 biggest tests in conference coming up. So they've got LIU, they've got Bobby Moe. Shout out Coach Aline. I've been playing some mental warfare with him. Every winning Instagram post that he pops up, I always send him a dolphin emoji. So he's, I'm in the back of his head. He doesn't know it yet, but
these colors don't run.
No. So, but no, again, Robert Morris, they've got a ton of talent. I think they are starting to put it together too. They're starting to score a lot, and Lemoyne is the exact opposite of that. So, to see, potentially 2 undefeated teams battling it out for, the right to host would be pretty cool. You know what I mean? So that's I've never been to Robbie Moe. LIU, I have had the pleasure. They were a different school at that time. We can't allow that to happen. I'll be happy if Bobby Moe or Lemoyne hosts, but I can't get on board with the Sharks. Not those colors. Again, Detroit Mercy and Cleveland State, watching those games, watched a few VMI too, just obviously given, Lemoyne playing. There's a lot to shake out here. The fact that there's 3 teams tied at 2 and 3, that is going to be hotly contested. And I am a big Coach Germ fan out at Cleveland State. King Vike, he's the man. Coach Papura, same thing down at VMI. I think he's done an awesome job down there. It's these are not easy jobs to play. To win at these guys absolutely grind it out. So it's been pretty cool to watch.
They find a way. I think if I'm looking at this, I agree with you. The game of the year is going to be Robbie Moe visiting Lemoyne. Presumably, both teams are undefeated going into that game and playing for the 1 seed and the privilege to host the NEC tournament. you look at the bottom half then, okay? I'm going to be quick here. Cleveland State at Robbie Moe. I mean, Robbie Moe arguably has the best home field advantage in the country. Second, if they're second, it's only to the Orange and the JMA Wireless Dome. As my good friend Gavin likes to say, ain't nobody want to visit Moon Township, especially in the spring. Okay?
That's because everybody thinks they're going to Pittsburgh.
But I don't think you come out alive from Moon Township. But and I mean, if I look at Robbie Moe's home record, what do you think it is? They've played 6 home games. What do you think their home record is?
But they lose 1.
6-0.
Ooh.
Nobody.
I was not that familiar with your game, Robbie Moe.
Defend Moon Township. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So that in itself makes that Lemoyne Robert Morris game. Thank goodness it's in Syracuse for the Dolphins, right? Like with that being the last game of the year, and that's going to define the number 1 seed. But you look at Cleveland State at Robbie Moe. I mean, might as well chalk it up as an L. I love Coach Jerem too, King Vike, but nobody wins in Moon Township. Cleveland State then gets to host Detroit. If they can beat Detroit Mercy, they go 1-1 in their last 2. It gets them to 3-4, and they've got the head-to-head over Detroit Mercy, but not VMI. Okay? And so it's going to depend on what VMI can. VMI go 2-0, LIU and Wagner. I think they can go 1-1. Okay, but they've got the head-to-head over Cleveland State, but not Detroit Mercy, right? And then Detroit Mercy hosts Mercyhurst, okay, and Cleveland State. I'm going to give them 1-1, gets them to 3-4 as well. They have the head-to-head over VMI, OT win on the road, but won't have the head-to-head over Cleveland State. So now we're in one of these sort of conference playoff pictures again, and I don't know how to read these playoff tiebreaker procedures. Okay, it's winning percentage. Obviously, they like talk about winning percentage 3-4 different times. To be honest with you, I think I got to get down to like the 6th bullet point to pull this thing apart, and it says if a tie still exists, the team allowing the fewest goals between the teams involved in the tie will be the highest seed. If 2 teams remain, the tie shall be broken utilizing the 2-way tiebreaker procedure. So I think we're in a similar situation as the Big East in the NEC. If all those teams go 1-1 and they tie and their head-to-heads are all compared, instead of goal differential like the Big East, the NEC is going to be goals against, which will be really interesting to look at.
Yeah, no, you're right. So, again, I think the scramble to get into some of these tournaments is just as good, if not better, than, what can happen in some of these, mid-major tournaments, and I think we're working our way down to the MAAC, which is my all-time favorite tournament to be a spectator of, and we'll talk about that later. But, again, these kids absolutely know kind of what's at stake. It's something coaches do their best to make them aware, but not beat them over the head with it, and, drown out every other thought they're supposed to be having in their head.
Totally. All right, we're gonna have to hold your horses on the MAAC here for one more. All right, let's jump into the CAA. We'll make this one quick. CAA top 4 get in. Okay, top 4 get in. You get a May 1st and a May 1st semifinal, May 3rd final. Okay, it is hosted by the highest seed currently in the CAA. All right. I was pulling up the website, and I was
That's going to be Towson's ball game, right?
I was pulling up the website, and the first thing that popped up was what popped up here? Drexel 6-0, but that is the 2024 field hockey standings. What we're looking for here is the men's lacrosse standings. You got Towson at 5-0, Fairfield at 4-1, Hofstra at 3-2, Drexel at 3-2. And the ass-kicking Chickens, surprisingly enough, after their early season win at Utah, when everyone was putting them on a pedestal, and I still think they're good, they're at 2-3 in the 5-hole. Then you got Stony Brook at 2-3, Monmouth at 1-4, and you got the Pirates sitting down there at 0-5. A lot can shake out here as well, but you got Towson in the driver's seat. Okay, Fairfield was America's team for a pretty long time there. All right, before they dropped one, but they do a great YouTube game day. All right, and they're still 11-1 overall. A lot can play out here in the CAA if we look at the rest of the schedules. But what's your take on the CAA here? I know with you being down your way, you probably see a little bit of Towson play, maybe not a ton, but and a Delaware maybe a little bit. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Towson's another one. They didn't start off super hot. I think they don't duck people. I'd say the one game, little glaring, would be the Navy one. Navy popped off a little bit for them by their standards. Hung 14 on Towson, which typically they're a very defensive minded group. But then they've kind of, like you said, kind of rounded into form. They really locked in for the conference slate. Won an absolute barn burner 19-18 against Delaware, and newcomer Stony Brook welcomed them to the league. And then they've just taken care of business against some other teams. They had a great game, actually. The Loyola Towson game was a great one. Good battle back and forth. Loyola had them on the ropes. So that Fairfield one is another one where, did you say like who's hosting, or is that determined by the one seed?
One seed, high seed.
Boom, there you go. That's way more to play for than just the 1 or the 2 seed, right? So you get a home game, get to sleep in your own comfy bed for hopefully 2 games back to back if you're Fairfield or Towson. So that's going to be a big one for a lot of reasons, a lot of playoff implications there.
Yeah, big one this Saturday. And somebody's got Fairfield at 15. I think nothing near post top 20's got them closer to 17. But I'm fired up. I mean, anybody who's in the Towson area, Fairfield game this weekend, presented by Discover Baltimore County, free banditos to the first 100 fans. I mean, if that doesn't get you in the door at Johnny Unitas Stadium, I'm not sure what will.
I legitimately don't know if anything else could get you there.
You might be bringing the family up.
I'll take my 2 kids' coupons. Thank you. I'll be back next week too.
Can we get 4 banditos for the Bulken family, please? Well, maybe we'll have to put a call into Coach Grossi, put a few aside. I wonder if they're branded or if they're just blank. Or tiger print. Do you think they're tiger print banditos? Look,
if they're doing anything right up there, that would be elite.
Here's a visual for everybody. Me in a tiger print bandito. All right, that's enough of that. Okay. That's going to be a huge game, though. You're right. Playing for the 1 seed, because the other one will be, if Fairfield can get the dub, they'll have the head-to-head for sure. Hofstra, sneaky. Started slow, sneaky, coming alive. I also want to give a shout out to the Hofstra Pride social media team. They've actually done a pretty good job. Some of it's a little cringe, but they've done a really good job, I think, of putting stuff out there. And the other team I want to shout out, just because I'm a huge fan of Coach Ghilardi, Stony Brook Seawolves, man. Yes, they're 2-3, okay, but they've got Drexel and Hampton left. If they can get a win in Philly against Drexel and then a win at home against Hampton to end the year, you're sitting at 4-3. Could you get into the top 4 at 4-3? Depending on what Delaware does, then you got
to go over down the stretch, right?
You get a win over Drexel, yeah. Drexel would have to go over. Drexel and Delaware would.
Well, they play each other, so that ain't happening.
Perfect.
Or at least one of them.
Perfect. So yeah, if Drexel goes 0-2, you could sneak in there. Stony Brook Seawolves could sneak in there, and watch out, they play good defense. So, but yeah, get eyes on that Towson Fairfield game. Get your free bandito up there, and I mean, R.I.P. the Green Turtle, but shout out the Green Turtle, what it used to be. We won't shout out the Rec Room. That used to be the place.
Oh yeah.
Man, I still dream about a crab pretzel from the Towson area. But all right, that's enough of CAA. Unless you got anything else to any closing remarks.
No, I think a lot of good guys coaching, head coaches and assistants in this league. So we could spend all day talking about good guy alerts.
Good guy alerts, and I'm not gonna if we're throwing good guy alerts out there. Coach Geeson down in the Monmouth Hawks. He deserves a shout out. But here we are. Drum roll for Coach Bulken in his favorite conference other than the Dolphins.
Yes.
We got the MAAC. All right, we got the MAAC here. Okay. Looking at the MAAC, I believe I got this right. 2025 MAAC Men's Lacrosse Championship, 6-team single elimination championship. All right, April 27th through May 3rd. First round hosted by the 3 and 4 seeds, very similar to the way that the Patriot League, exactly how the Patriot League is set up, minus the days. Okay, so the first round is actually Sunday, April 27th, and then semis are on Thursday, championships on Saturday. Patriot League is a Tuesday quarterfinal, Friday semi, Sunday final. So 6 teams get into the MAAC. All right. Let's see what we got for the standings. All right. Oh, that's women's lacrosse. Hang tight. Hang tight. Standings in the MAAC. Baby. All right. The Canisius Golden Griffins sitting atop the league right now at 6-1. You got the Fighting Basties, the Sacred Heart Pioneers in the nothing near post top 20 at 5-1. You've got Siena at 5-1 in the 3-hole, Marist at 4-2 in the 4. Manhattan Jaspers, Coach Dougie Sage, 3-3 in the 5-hole. Quinnipiac at 2-5 in the 6-hole. And then it rounded out all teams at 1-5. Mount St. Mary's, Merrimack, and Iona. Canisius has obviously played one more game than everybody. Okay, at 6-1, other than Quinnipiac, who's sitting at 2-5. But
everybody else kind of game in hand.
Game in hand, as we like to say. Yes, sir. Thoughts on the MAAC? I want to give you the floor. Your favorite conference here to watch down the stretch.
Yeah, look, like to watch those games. I'm trying to remember the year. It's either 17 or 18. I remember sitting in my office in Hartford and watching the back-to-back games, and I got to remember the exact breakdowns, but I think it was the year, I think Quinnipiac ended up winning, or no, Canisius ended up pulling it out, something like that. I'll got to get my story straight here, but just, you've never seen 2 games back-to-back and in the insane fashion that happens in the MAAC tournament. Anybody that's watched it year over year, you have seen just things you've never seen on a lacrosse field. Teams win games and lose games that in ways that you've never seen. So it is always worth tuning in. And they do a really good job because on Championship Sunday, they are the 11 a.m. game. They know what they're doing. They want to strike early, strike hard, strike fast. They want eyes on, which is great. You know, they don't try to cram the airwaves. So again, like always a great way to kick off Championship Sunday because they go the 11 a.m. slot. 11 a.m. game, by the way, as a college coach, always undefeated. Always one of the best ways to get in and out on a game day.
Really? You enjoyed 11 a.m.?
Oh, I loved it.
That means team meals at 7:30.
Yeah.
All right, early to bed, early to rise. You're an early bird guy. I like that.
I do. I like to get it in. I do not like sitting around waiting.
Oh man, nothing better than a game day lift for me. But we're not here to talk about me. All right, looking at the top 3. Okay, like I said, you've got Canisius, Sacred Heart, and Siena sitting 1, 2, 3, and Marist in the 4. All 4 of those teams have already clinched a spot. All right, have already clinched a spot in the postseason. Okay, Canisius, 1 game left, as we talked about. Siena, they're hosting the Saints. Okay, the Saints are making the trip from one end of the thruway to the other end of the thruway. For those of you that know upstate, literally Albany to Buffalo, end to end. One road. I can only imagine what the tolls are going end to end on the thruway in today's day and age. But that'll be a good one, okay, to watch out for this weekend. And then Sacred Heart, they got 2 left. Okay, they've got Mount St. Mary's at home, and then they've got the Jaspers at home. Okay, so with Sacred Heart sitting there at 5-1, they've got 2 winnable games as well. All right, Canisius, I still can't believe Canisius is 6-1 in the MAAC, the way that they started the year. And then you've got Siena. Okay, obviously we talked about Siena's got to play in Buffalo at 1:00 this Saturday, but then they've got to go down to Loudonville and take on the Red Foxes on what is that? That's got to be a Tuesday night to end the season, April 23rd against Marist.
Okay. Yeah.
So those three are going to sort of shuffle themselves around. If we're looking at it, Manhattan, Quinnipiac are probably shoo-ins. Manhattan at 3-3, Quinnipiac at 2-5, Mount St. Mary's, Merrimack, and Iona all at 1-5.
The Mount's got to win 2 games straight. They got Sacred Heart. That's going to be a tough hill to climb. And then Iona, and then if Quinnipiac wins their last one, which is Merrimack, that doesn't really matter. Quinnipiac can get in at 3-10
overall.
You love it. You love to see it.
Overall,
this is why this tournament is the best.
3-5 in the conference, 3-10 overall, and you've got a seat at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Hey man, all you need is a chance.
Yeah, but Siena, I've got to watch Siena 1 or 2 times. They like to get up and down. Not shocking. Their whole staff is born and bred in the Albany Great Danes mold, so they like to run. They can definitely score, and they've got some really talented kids. A couple kids, some 40-point scorers, a couple guys in the 30 neighborhood. So, Pratt Reynolds is a manliest kid. They got a good mix. They got some upstate. They've got some Long Island. You got to go pretty far down their leading scorers list to find a kid not from New York, which I love.
Love that. You love that. The Saints. I think there's a New Hartford kid at Siena, too, taking draws, now that I think about that out loud.
All right. I'll tell you. Logan Bannock, yeah.
New Hartford kid, right?
New Hartford kid, you're right.
We love to see that.
He's actually knowing that name, he is, drum roll, he's at 68% this year.
Bang!
That's
Spartans, baby.
Hey, look. This is we're in a weird time in college athletics. I hope Logan sticks it out as a Saint. I'll tell you. I'll just say that. I'll tell you that for free.
Hey, I mean, look at us two upstate boys that stuck around upstate for our college ball.
Yep. One
of us played in 3 national championships, didn't go anywhere. The other one won 3 games this senior year, didn't go anywhere. So, all right, I'll have a chat with Logan. Coach Pope, Coach Gardy, shout out to those 2 guys, New Hartford high school coaches. They've been there for 30 plus years, 20 plus years.
Oof, yeah, they've been around forever.
Pope and Gardy, let's do the math quick. I played in 06. I think Pope started in like 99. So if Pope started coaching New Hartford in 99, that's a 27-year career. Coach Gardy's right behind him. So shout out those 2 guys. Logan, 68%. You'll love to see it at the dot for the Spartans.
Yeah.
All right. How do we feel about the MAAC? Are we just fired up for 11 a.m. championship?
Look, and they do it right. They know exactly who they are. They're gonna get you juiced for the rest of the day. And they again, that game will not disappoint. It does not matter who. It will be take the plus 1.5 for sure.
And the under.
And no, dude. Hey, if Manhattan's in it, take the under. Anybody else, I'm absolutely hammering it over.
Goalie you, dude. Goalie you. Down in the Bronx, right? Down in the Bronx, Gaelic Park, Riverdale, New York.
Hey, you know what? One of the most underrated, coolest fields in college lacrosse.
Agreed. Could not agree more. Gaelic Park, man. I want to give some flowers to the Jaspers, man. 3-3 in the conference, 5-7 overall. They're on a little bit of a slide right now, losing 3 in a row, but they're battling. They had an 8-7 loss in Buffalo. Okay. They had a 12-8 loss at home against Siena. They had a 14-10 loss up in Poughkeepsie against Marist. They got Iona coming across the city. You think Iona takes the New York City subway?
That's a great question. We should ask Coach Serm.
That would be an electric content. Think about the videos that come out of that on Instagram if you take the subway to your game.
I'm going to tell you right now, maybe we just get in Coach Serm's ear and be like, hey, I got you right now.
Hey, man. I mean, branding right now and marketing right now for the Gales is huge. So maybe that's the play. But they got Iona coming to town. That could get them to 4-3 if they perform, and then at Sacred Heart to end the year. But shout out Coach Sage and the Ropats for the Jaspers. I wonder when if the white digi camo comes out for the MAAC championship, if they make it like he wore in the dome. But that was a great look on Coach Sage.
Well, I mean, we could have a digi camo matchup. Coach Basti at Sacred Heart loves his digi camo.
Wow. Is Coach Basti a digi camo guy, or is he a classic camo guy?
Oh no, digi camo.
Wow.
I mean, I've seen him rock both, but digi camo is ingrained in Fairfield, Connecticut.
April 23rd, Fairfield, Connecticut, Wednesday, 3 p.m. The camo matchup. Sacred Heart hosting the Jaspers.
Loser leaves town. Can't order it next year.
Well, literally the loser. I guess the winner could leave town too, if it's the Jaspers. But all right, that's enough of the MAAC. Keep eyes on it. I mean, I think we'll probably hold serve, but I won't stop. I can't believe Canisius is 6-1. I could actually see Siena Sacred Heart. Can Sacred Heart jump them? Sorry, now I'm losing.
No, Canisius beat them, right?
Yeah, Canisius beat them.
I mean, unless no, they can't.
Wow. So Canisius is your 1 seed.
That's
pretty much. Siena. They could lose to Siena, right? Put them at 6-2.
Yeah, but then
Siena, that moves Siena to 6-1. So if Siena goes 2-0, they'll be, because if Canisius loses to Siena, they'll be 6-2.
Yeah, right.
Sacred Heart can win out Mount St. Mary's and Manhattan to get to 7-1. So yeah, Canisius isn't locked in. They've got work to do, but keep an eye on that.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, A10. All right, we're getting a little long in the tooth here, but we'll keep battling for everybody out there, the 4 people that are listening. A10, top 4 get in. Thursday, May 1st, Saturday, May 3rd, hosted by St. Joe's this year, which is a predetermined site. And your 2024 A10 reigning champs are your St. Joe's Hawks. Current standings, okay, top 4. Richmond at 3-0, St. Joe's at 2-1, UMass at 2-1, High Point at 2-1. Bonnie's and my Bart are both 0-3. Okay, pretty straightforward here. Just playing for seeding between Richmond, St. Joe's, UMass, and High Point. Richmond's got UMass and St. Joe's left. St. Joe's has High Point and Richmond left. UMass has Richmond and Hobart left. High Point has St. Joe's and the Bonnies. And High Point actually holds the head-to-head over UMass with a win at Garber Field, convincingly, actually, back on April 5th.
Okay.
So, not much to sort of talk about here. St. Joe's, obviously, the host. Okay. Richmond hosting UMass, and then St. Joe's to end the year. That'll be the game to keep an eye on to see who the 1 seed will be. But again, home field advantage doesn't mean anything when we have these predetermined sites. What's your takeaway on these 4 teams if you have one?
Historically, you don't want to see one of these guys in the first round of the NCAA tournament.
Truth.
Like Richmond this year, nobody wants to play that team. I'll tell you that for free. They are really good this year. St. Joe's, was it last year? What did they give it to? Give UVA everything they can handle. A couple years ago, they took Yale to the wire. High Point knows how to upset people. Obviously, the coaching change, but I think they're coming back a little bit. And then UMass, Coach Canella is unreal. Like that guy's been around forever. He is like UMass is always big, always tough, always, just maybe one of the grittier teams in the country. And again, like this is going to be like these 4 teams right here. This will be, it's going to take everything to win this conference. I would say.
I mean, these 4. This could arguably be the best tournament that we see.
I would agree.
I'm with you. I think Richmond, sneaky, Elite 8 team.
I wouldn't put it past them. Not even close.
And depending on who they run into in the Elite 8, they could be your dark horse.
I would. That's worth a future right there.
Right.
If that was possible.
Right. And I mean, I know you love the Spiders because of the Bees connection. But they just play great ball. I mean, Paul Richards at the Baldwinsville B has done a great job on the defensive side. Coach Chamati has done a great job. Attention to detail. I don't think he'd love my long hair right now, but he knows how to get guys sharp, and they've got dudes that are playing at a really high level. I don't know. I was watching a little bit of film last night, Richmond versus High Point. I mean, Aiden O'Neill at X for Richmond he's doing a great job. I don't know how much tape you've seen, but Aiden O'Neill, when he dodges from X, the Spiders basically just give him the entire side.
Mhm.
You know, coaches talk about getting a 5-5. Aiden O'Neill drives up to like 10-10, and it's
Yeah.
impossible to defend him because their spacing is so good. He can roll back, and he's got everything he wants when he gets up that high as he drives. And it's because he's put a ton of work in the weight room in his lower half. He's not getting driven off his line. He just keeps working up. He climbs the ladder. You don't take away topside, he'll turn the corner, but usually just kind of gets up to 10-10, 9-9, and rolls back, and it's either a question mark or it's, okay, now I've got a short alley dodge. And I'm just putting this one right from my ear into the low corner, and it's a G because he's got both hands.
That is the definition of the keys to the car,
Right.
offensively, right? Like, and I actually the Little John kid, he's
Oh,
more of an off-ball Canadian.
oh, he's
Man,
been
that kid,
awesome.
he's got ice in his veins. He's like he had what 3 or 4 against UVA. I mean, he filled it up against them, and I just remember him, couldn't be bothered. Guys draped all over him. They throw it right into him. Like having a guy like that, he's just a cheat code throwing it inside.
He's been awesome, man. I mean, overall, you've obviously got, like you mentioned, Lucas Littlejohn. He's sitting at 31-13 for 44 points. You got Aiden O'Neill, as I just mentioned, 25-17 for 42. And to be honest with you, sneaky Max Merklinger. Okay, late recruit for them. I remember because I was recruiting him at BU a little bit. He was coming off a knee injury. Seton Hall Prep, if I remember correctly, playing for Steps. He has come into his own this year. 19-13. He's definitely their top midfielder, and he's just smart and cerebral. Just a really good offense, but then defensively too. Like Coach Richards has got those boys cooking, and if you kind of, it's they've got the whole thing. They're not flashy. There's nothing flashy about them. They just get it done. And to be honest with you, St. Joe's kind of similar. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
similar. Coach Taylor Wright puts a tough brand of lacrosse out there. It's the if I hope I'm not disrespecting him, but I'm pretty sure the Western Canadian in him, right?
Alberta. He's an Alberta guy, I believe.
Alberta, right? Just a tough brand he puts out there for the St. Joe's Hawks, and I'm fired up for this A10 tournament. But they're pretty much just playing for seeding. Okay, hosted at St. Joe's, predetermined. I can see. Oh man, do you think St. Joe's can get that win at home against Richmond last game of the year to get the 1 seed?
Oh man, I don't know.
Sheesh.
I mean, basically what they're doing is playing to play High Point again, right? Like
Right.
it feels like that's kind of
Yeah.
the outcome of that game is.
Who do you want, right? Do you want
Yeah.
High Point? Do you want UMass? And I'd argue, the High Point. I mean, High Point's starting two freshmen and a sophomore down at attack. I'd rather take that than a Coach Canella coached UMass team that's coming into a Saturday playoff
No
atmosphere.
doubt. No doubt. Quick piece of trivia. Scotty Meehan, upstate New York guy, grew up in Baldwinsville, did not go to Baldwinsville High School. Where'd he go to high school?
The manliest Pebble Hill.
Thought I was going to get you.
Come on, buddy. You can't get a guy that's got.
Shout out, Scotty.
Shout out Scotty Meehan. He's doing great stuff on the offensive side there, and he's got that viral clip of the big boy from St. Joe's last year running over him while Scotty's trying to hold on to a pad. What a clip!
No, yeah, he
right there.
never much of a defender, Scotty. That's for sure.
Dude, Meehan planted right in the dirt. You love to see it. Probably similar to his Manly's Pebble Hill days too, but we won't go there. One last piece here. St. Joe's, all right, notorious for earning the right to host the conference tournament when they were in the NEC, but they were also notorious for losing in the finals. And Coach Bulken, just hear me out here. 2015, lost to Bryant in the title game on Sweeney Field at St. Joe's. 2016, lost to Hobart in the title game on Sweeney Field. Shout out Gavin Wash and George Freeze. 2017, they were 2-4 in the conference, no playoffs. 2018, lost to Robbie Moe in the title game. You'd think it was in Moon Township. Nope, Sweeney Field. 2019, 3-3, no playoffs. 2021, lost to Bryant. You want to have a guess at when they lost to Bryant in 2021?
You need to tell me. Sweeney Field?
Title game, Sweeney Field.
Wow.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. On Sweeney Field, losing the title game. 2022, they won the NEC on Sweeney Field.
There you go. So they got the monkey off their back. Like, let's not do this. Don't do this to them.
2022, right? Monkey off their back. Now, and this is where I was going. A10, different story. 2023, they lost on the road in Richmond to High Point. 2024, reigning champs. They won the whole kit and caboodle. All right. Yeah. So St. Joe's, Richmond, UMass, and High Point looking like they're going to be battling out in the A10. Okay. Now we get moving on. Another A. ACC. Top 4. Friday, May 2nd, Sunday, May 4th, hosted at the American Legion Memorial Stadium, Charlotte, North Carolina. Hounds Country.
Yeah, buddy.
You know a little something about American Legion Memorial Stadium.
Had my cup of coffee down there.
You're reigning cup of coffee. You're reigning champs of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Excuse my language, but they shit pumped Duke in the title game last year, 16-6. Final. So you got your top 4 in the ACC current standings: UNC 2-0, Cuse 2-0, Notre Dame 2-1, Duke 0-2, and Virginia 0-3. Remaining schedules. UNC's got to host Notre Dame, and then they go to the JMA Wireless Dome to take on the Orange. Cuse is at Duke this weekend, and then they host North Carolina. Notre Dame's got to go to Tobacco Road and play the Tar Heels for their final game. Duke hosting Cuse and then at UVA. And Virginia's last game has got to host Duke last weekend of the year. Okay. I'm going to go out and on a limb and say Notre Dame, Cuse, and UNC are basically locks. Some seeding left to play for, but Duke at UVA will have major implications on April 26th.
Virginia can keep Duke out of the tournament. I think that's
crazy.
Well, they can keep them out of the ACC tournament, right?
Correct.
But I think out of the NCAA tournament too.
Man, Duke drops that one.
Right? They're not feeling great about Selection Sunday.
No, you're not. And I mean, nothing to your post does not have a ton of respect for the Duke Blue Devils. I mean, I hate to say it, the Manalytics, they're just not. They're not your father's like Duke Blue Devils.
They look like they've got a Brennan O'Neill-sized hole in their attack.
Yeah.
Again, like, that's not a team with the talent that they have. You count out. And again, like I have my feelings on the ACC having a tournament at all. They just get to supercharge their strength of schedule and
100%.
throw off all the metrics that all these stat nerds that put together the tournament use. Not to say that, these teams aren't deserving to get in. It's just, it skews what it looks like. And teams that, from a one-bid conference historically that maybe have a good year and losing a, conference championship, you deny the chance to have a little bit of parity sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if I'm going to flip the script on you, if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't look after yourself, ain't nobody going to look after you.
I know.
So
I know.
You got to do what's best for you. All right.
But again, they don't even have an automatic AQ. Like, it's
true.
I don't know. I get it. It's tough. Like, lacrosse is what it is right now in Division I, and that's how the ACC's been forever. So
I will say this: the ACCs, everyone's usually talking about, does everybody get in? This year, it only might be 3, depending on what happens down the stretch.
Well, I think depending on what happens in the Ivy and the Big Ten, this is more than likely. Again, like, if Duke can go on a run, I think they have to win at least one game in the ACC tournament.
They got to get into the ACC tournament first.
But again, like, they got to beat Virginia, no easy task. Then they've got to win a first round game against UNC, who you just battled with. Maybe Cuse, who knows? I don't know. Pick your poison there. But it's I don't know, man. It's tough. And Virginia's not like they don't have something to play for. They have, they have a way through. It's through the ACC. It's just not going to be fun.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So again, like Virginia could spoil everything, or Duke, and they could turn the ACC into a 4-bid league by going on a run.
Major implications. Duke UVA, April 26th, and usually you don't say major implications for the 4 and the 5 seed playing each other, but watch out.
If somebody's got to get it. Somebody has to do it.
Literally. I want to look at a couple scenarios here. So stay with me here. I know this is tough for radio, but let's say UNC goes 0-2 against Notre Dame and Cuse. They get a final record of 2-2. I'm putting them at the 3 seed. Cuse goes 2-0. They beat Duke. They beat UNC because UNC can't come up to the Dome, and there's no place like Dome. So Cuse goes 2-0. Final record of 4-0 in the ACC. They get the 1. Notre Dame goes 1-0 in their last one at North Carolina, because if North Carolina's going 0-2, Notre Dame has to beat them. Notre Dame gets the 2 seed. Duke goes 0-2 down the stretch. They lose to Cuse at home, and then they lose to the Wahoos on the road. 0-2 down the stretch. They get to 0-4. That means UVA went 1-0 for a final record of 1-3. Duke's out at 0-4. Nutty. We already touched on that one. Here's another realistic scenario. UNC goes 1-1. Okay, final record of 3-1. They got the head-to-head over Cuse. I'm saying they beat Cuse.
Okay.
Cuse goes 1-1. They get a final record of 3-1. They've got the head-to-head over Notre Dame, but not UNC. Notre Dame goes 1-0. They beat North Carolina. Final record 3-1. They got the head-to-head over North Carolina. So now you got 3 teams in the ACC, 3-1 again. Duke goes 1-1. Final record of 1-3. Okay, but the Duke loss. They beat Cuse. They lose to UVA. So they're 1-3, but one of those losses is to UVA. UVA goes 1-0 because they beat Duke. Final record of 1-3 with the head-to-head over Duke. That is mayhem, because you got UNC, Cuse, and Notre Dame 3-1. All have head-to-head wins against each other. You've got Duke and UVA both at 1-3, but UVA's got the head-to-head over Duke. Mayhem. Oh, man. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. But like we said, Duke UVA, even though it's a bottom of the standings, that's going to be important. I'm also going to be keeping an eye on Cuse's health, specifically Finn Thompson. Is there any shot of return for him? I mean, I highly doubt it, but I know Cuse fans are hanging on to hope, but he certainly makes a difference for that offense in a big way. Not sure if you've heard anything. I haven't,
No.
good or bad, but that's a huge piece that the Cuse is missing. And I know everyone's talking about him and, can they win the big one, blah, 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 all this kind of jazz. They're without one of their starting attackmen that they came into the season with. And they're still doing what they're doing.
Yeah. And not for anything, I think Finn Thompson does such a good job, away from the ball. He makes everybody's life so much easier, and they're still putting up numbers. I think, who's the other? The other thing I was going to say is I feel like the last 2 years leading up to this year, Cuse's goalie play was kind of next level. What was it, Will Mark, right? That kid being gone now, I don't think that they've missed a beat. I think they've only dialed it in more defensively.
I'm a Will Mark hater.
Hey, I mean, that kid had a few 20-save games, it felt like, over his years in Cuse.
Yeah, ask him what happened when he played for Puerto Rico.
Oh, all right.
The tribe took it to him. Nah, that's not true. We did beat him though, but no, I'm a well-known Will Mark hater, but that's on me. That's a blind spot for me. But no, I agree with you, right? I think Coach O'Dearna's dialed the boys in. I think Jimmy McCool has done a good job for a big lefty taking up space. But I mean, this all started with the Finn Thompson thing. Cuse is here without one of the starting attackmen that they started the year with, and they're still a top 10 team.
No doubt.
Right? That's impressive in itself, in my opinion. Just like we're Coach Miller fans, Coach Germ fans on this pod, we are absolutely Coach O'Dearna fans. Love what he's doing, and I know his unit will get up off the turf and off the carpet after giving up 17 in Uniondale, New York. I have no doubt about it. So keep an eye on the ACC. But I think compared to years past, we're not going to get all 5 teams in this year.
No doubt.
UVA's out. And if Duke can't beat UVA last game of the year, they're out too.
100%.
Which is crazy. But okay. Anything else on the ACC?
No, man, I think covered it.
All right, I just poured myself a nice glass of R-Rock here, so we'll finish this thing up. All right, next conference, the Big Ten. This one's obviously close to Coach Bulken's heart as we drag on here late into the night. All right, Big Ten. Everybody gets an invite, even Hopkins. All 6 teams get in. All right, quarterfinals April 26th at the higher seed, 1 and 2 getting byes. Semis Thursday, May 1st, and the finals Saturday, May 3rd at the predetermined spot. That school up north, Ann Arbor, Michigan. Okay, your reigning champs are the Michigan Wolverines with a with a shit pumping of their own over Penn State last year, 16-4, which gave them their 2nd straight Big Ten championship. Okay, current standings right now: Michigan 3-1, Ohio State Buckeyes 3-1, Maryland Terrapins 2-2, Penn State Nittany Lions 2-2, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights 2-2, and then Johnny Hops. Okay, Johnny Hopkins 0-4. But what's crazy, like I said at the jump, everybody gets in, and you just need a seat at the table to be able to have a chance. You know, gotta have a chance. You don't have a chance unless you got a seat at the table. So, initial thoughts on the Big Ten here as this thing starts to unfold.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a team in the country banged up worse than Hopkins right now. They're missing a few big ones. They're missing Melendez. He's kind of one of the types of kids like straw that stirs the drink a little bit. He can get guys moving. Just with ball and stick. Not that he needs to be the end of the rainbow. I think he just he's explosive enough to get defenses moving. Rutgers has been nice to watch, kind of bounce back a little bit. The Cardin Stoller kid has stolen them a few games, like that the Maryland game a couple weeks ago. He was big. He made, I think they were up by 2 at that point late in the game, but that kid had like 2 doorstep stops with less than a minute to go. Without him in goal, they don't win that game. I think it's been interesting to see that. Penn State, obviously they beat Michigan. Shout out my boy Reed Gills coming in relief, backup face-off guy. He played at Severn. I was lucky enough to coach that kid. But Reed's been a really good kind of relief face-off guy for them, and he's starting to gain some confidence. And being able to come in, on the back end of Colby Baldwin, they're so different as face-off guys. Colby's definitely grittier, really athletic, very skilled offensively. Not quite as quick getting in and out, but Reed is lightning fast hands. So the Penn State's going to be a problem there. And Trainer looks like he's healthy. I mean, what he banged like 8 or 9 in their last game. Like
he beat Hopkins on his own.
Yeah, I mean that kid is a man amongst boys, and he just has a knack, right? So, and then Maryland, like, what else can you say? Like, I think Coach Tills, nobody gets guys dialed in this time of year better, for my money, at this stage of the game. I think Coach Tills has been, really good in that regard, regardless of talent or coaching turnover. He's always, they're not a team anybody wants to see, call it, they're 2-2. But again, this is all window dressing. Everybody's getting in. It's all about, having to play that extra game is the only thing you really don't want to have to do, right? And then Ohio State, man, they're a bit of a surprise offensively, especially the last few weeks. It's starting to click. Defensively, I think they're healthy for the first time in the last few years. Bobby Van Buren's been nicked up. He's had some bad luck in that regard. And their goalie, Fayak, is, man, every time I see that kid catch a shot, it looks about as casual as it can be. You know what I mean? And then, I think Michigan, they're a little uncharted territory, 3-1. That's they say it on every broadcast now. Like they've always like been, snuck into the tournament, whatever. They kind of battled through the bottom end of the tournament to win it, being kind of an underdog. Now they're really not, which is really cool.
Yeah, man. I'm looking at it right now, and what's crazy is Ohio State is obviously on this run. All right, 11-2. I think nothing near post. We had them in the top 5. I think we had them at 3 before that loss to Maryland. But they're at 50% at the faceoff dot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting great goaltending with Fayak. They're getting good goaltending with Fayak. Okay. They're getting good. The Big Ten, great conference for goaltenders. Great conference for goaltenders.
Yeah.
You look at it right now, save percentage wise, you've got Logan McNaney, who, little lefties, shout out Rory Finnegan. Little lefties they're tough, man. Logan McNaney and the Terps are at 62%. You've got Carden Stoller that you mentioned at 58.9%, so 59% I'm giving it to him. You got Fayak at 57, better than I expected, actually, to be honest with you. You got the Bullis kid, his name escapes me right now, at Penn State. He's at 51. Michigan, you're at 50, and then Hop, they just can't figure out the goaltending position. I thought Luke Stout was the answer. Clearly wasn't. They've got an upstate boy in Chase Erlin running that goalie room, and from inside sources tell me that he's doing as best he can in that goalie room. They just haven't been able to figure it out, and they're sitting at 46.2. But I want to go back to the faceoff dot, okay? And I think you'll enjoy this. On the Big Ten website, you have to filter for the offensive stats to find the faceoff percentage number. So you're an offensive guy too, Coach Bulken.
Obviously.
Looking at face-off numbers, you got Penn State at the dot, as you were mentioning, 58.4 this year. All right.
Yep.
Right behind them, and I think you'll find this interesting, Hopkins at 58.3.
Yeah, Logan Callahan is pretty good.
Upstate boy, right? Rochester.
Yep, he's a Victor kid.
And then this is really what I wanted to key in on and get your take. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Okay. Right behind the two leaders at 57.9. So 0.5 away from Penn State, 0.4 away from Hopkins to be in that 3 hole at 57.9 with 2 Division III kids. Oh, excuse me, Ethan Barnard. Ethan Barnard, yeah. Bowdoin kid, right?
Bowdoin
and Union. Shout out Coach Witherford.
That's right. Yeah,
Union,
guy that was, almost got him to the promised land.
Paletto, man. Paletto has been killing it at the Face-Off X. Absolutely killing it at the Face-Off X. So Barnard's been the number 2. Okay, he's 20 for 42 on the year for 48%. But then the Paletto kid is 139 for 231 for a 60% win percentage. He went into Army and kicked the crap out of Will Coletti.
Yeah.
Okay? And not only is he 60% at the dot, he's 2-4 on the year.
Yeah.
So that dude, Union, Coach Witherford, Paletto could be a huge piece to Rutgers making a run here in the Big Ten tournament. So really cool to see. Maryland sitting at 52, or I guess 53%. Ohio State, even with their 11-2 record, they're 50-50 at the dot. Okay, and then Michigan, who we already said was number 1 in the conference, 3-1, they're at 41% at the dot.
Yep.
Really, really interesting to kind of see how that works, because I know you talk to a lot of coaches. To win, you've got to be good in the goal, and you got to be good at the X.
Yep.
Because the ball, what does Coach Hirsch say? The ball is everything. The ball is life. Ball is life, I think he says. So if you can't win draws, you can't make saves, you don't have the ball. So really interesting to see how this whole thing is playing out. But if we look at remaining games, the Big Ten's kind of cool that they only have 1 game left. Okay. My notes say Michigan 3-1 host Michigan. They can't play each other. We're not getting a Maize and Blue inter squad. They're hosting Ohio State. The Buckeyes are going up north. Okay, so they're both at 3-1, so they're playing for that 1 seed, which is cool. Maryland hosting Hopkins Friday night. Penn State hosting Rutgers Friday night. All right. So first things first, the winner of Ohio State Michigan gets the number 1 seed and a first round bye. All right. Talk about turning up the temp on an already heated rivalry.
No
All
doubt.
right. Let's assume that the Terps beat Hopkins. They move to 3-2. They have the head-to-head over Ohio State, but not Michigan.
Right.
So they could be the 2 seed if Michigan wins, and the 2 seed they avoid the quarters. Okay, but if Ohio State wins, Michigan stays the 2, and the Terps' fate is determined by the Rutgers-Penn State result. The Terps beat Penn State but lost to Rutgers. So if Rutgers beats Penn State, Rutgers gets the 3, and the Terps fall to 4. If PSU wins, if Penn State wins, Terps get the 3 and Penn State gets the 4. Okay, and what's cool about this is the Terps will know the Penn State Rutgers result either right before face-off or shortly thereafter on Friday night, because Penn State Rutgers faces off at 6 on Friday, while the Terps host Hopkins at 8 p.m. So it'll be really interesting to see Friday Night Lights for the Big Ten this weekend, if I remember correctly. Kind of how it all plays out. Let me double check that, because I do believe it's this weekend since they've got a 16 tournament. Yeah, Friday night, Penn State playing against Rutgers, and then Johnny Hopkins, Maryland. All right. So obviously the 1 seed's going to be determined by that Ohio State Michigan game, but Maryland Penn State game, or excuse me, Penn State Rutgers game is going to be big for seeding, because if the Terps don't win that game, they fall to the 4. There's a really good chance they fall to the 4. Now, that might be the scariest 4 seed in the entire country. I don't know about you, but I don't want to see the Terps in the 4 seed.
No,
personally.
No, but again, like if the Terps fall to that, like having to play that extra game, you as like a team that sees them later in the later rounds, like you want the Terps to battle, that you want them to get beat up. Them coming in fresh with a bye, that's no good for anybody. Giving Coach Tills that amount of time to game plan too. I don't know that there's anybody that does it any better. And in the last 2 years, just talking about Ohio State, Michigan, 0-4 against Michigan.
Whoa.
So again, like, that doesn't mean anything coming into this year, but we talked about getting the monkey off your back a little bit with St. Joe's a little bit ago. That's as much as this game's about, getting a 1 seed, and securing a bye for sure, proving yourself you can beat this team that you've had trouble with is big.
Huge.
Yeah.
I mean,
a team you're probably going to see again. Like,
yeah, if you want to get to where you want to get to.
Yeah. How many teams from the Big Ten this year make it?
Oh, I hate to say it, but Hop's out. If Rutgers can make a little bit of a run, they can get in.
I don't think they can get that large.
No
way. I don't think so.
So then you get 3 then, or you get 4.
Yeah.
You get 4. You get Michigan, Ohio State, Maryland, Penn State.
Yeah. I just don't think you're the 5th place team in arguably the best conference this year, like from top to bottom, especially the way Rutgers has been playing. Like the 5th seed, you're going to give an at-large to.
Yeah, you're right. Rutgers got to win it. They got to run the table.
I don't know. Maybe they make a championship game appearance. Obviously you got to beat good teams to get there. I don't know. That's a long way to go.
No doubt. I can't believe Ohio State's lost to Michigan 4 straight games.
Yeah, that's and again, like, that's the dangerous part about the predetermined host sites, especially when you consider a rivalry like this. Like Ohio State hosts the Big Ten tournament last year, Michigan wins it on their field. You're not even a part of that game. And that's no good for anybody. That's a place that takes beating that team very seriously. It's and again, like, I think the response after last year has been incredible from Ohio State. Like, they have taken care of business, especially since that Utah game.
Totally. Everyone was calling for Coach Myers' head after that Utah game.
That was an interesting one. So, like, they made a goalie change in that one. Started Henry Blake, who's a good goalie. He played a little bit for him before Caleb came in. So that was, who knows what happened there. That's the time of year where kids are getting the flu early preseason, and you never know who's going to be available day in and day out.
I think us here at Nothing Near Post, we called for the national championship hangover, and that was not a lacrosse national championship. That was the football national championship. I think the Buckeyes were still celebrating that one.
Yeah.
But if we're going to keep our eyes on that Michigan Ohio State game, I'm personally fired up to watch Ryan Cohen for the Wolverines down at attack. 16 and 23 on the year to lead the Wolverines with 39 points. I gotta believe that the Buckeyes are going to counter him with BVB. All right, Bobby Van Buren. And that is going to be a matchup for the ages, because Ryan Cohen's not a guy that's going to just take you off the dribble and get a bucket or put it on somebody's stick. He's a super cerebral player. And what I just love about the Ryan Cohen story, it's not because he's a tribe member like myself, but he's from Florida.
Yep.
He is from Boca Raton. Okay? Hence the Cohen last name. But a Florida kid playing with that level of IQ, right? You think of Florida, for me, you think of a couple Notre Dame kids recently, like shout out Kevin Martin and the Sweetlax program. I'll give them their flowers. They spit out the Carter Parlett kid who was playing D-Midi for Notre Dame last year. Shout out the Eric Dobson kid who was playing midfield, first line, giant midfielder for them, with both national champs, right? You think of the big, athletic, run-by-you type of dudes. Ryan Cohen, he's not that. He's a cerebral attackman with a high IQ coming out of Florida. That's going to be a hell of a matchup, because Bobby Van Buren, obviously one of the best defensemen in the country, if not the best. I know people want to give it to Sean Light at Notre Dame. I'm sure I'm missing somebody else and disrespecting somebody else, but Bobby Van Buren is in that conversation. That matchup is going to be one for the ages.
Yeah, no, I think it's a little different of a cover assignment for Bobby Van Buren, right? Like, not like you said, like not a guy that's gonna drag you out to X and square you up and try to run by you, which I think Bobby Van Buren, that's a guy, he's an eraser that way.
Big time.
Not that he's not good off ball, but that's not necessarily like his bread and butter, right? So it's going to be really interesting. I think he's pretty sudden, Ryan Cohen. So that's he makes things happen in a flash, which is really cool. Like he's got a great game. You're right. He's a lot of fun to watch. He's like one of those guys. Next thing you know, he's like 4-2.
And you don't even recognize it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think he's going to put Bobby Van Buren in a lot of weird spots. And you're right, it won't be off the ball, but yeah, Bobby Van Buren can erase anybody in the country. I don't care how athletic you are. He's gonna erase you if you're just gonna go one-on-one with the kid. But what Ryan Cohen's gonna try to do, and this is again a washed-up college coach talking about this, he's gonna put him in pit game, big little, in weird spots. It's gonna be on the wing. It's gonna be at X. It's gonna be at GLE. It's gonna be in the sub game. Like, there's gonna be scenarios where Ryan Cohen's going to put Bobby Van Buren in spots that he's not comfortable, and that's what you have to do against an elite defenseman, right? Yep. A lot, very similar to what Joey Spallina did to Sean Light for Notre Dame. Put him in the slide spot, and Joey Spallina went off against the Irish, right?
Yeah, how much are you going to expect Bobby Van Buren to help off of that kid? And that's a kid that he might not be the guy they throw it right to once Bobby Van Buren slides, but he's going to get to a spot where he's cashing in one way or the other.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how much off ball Ryan Cohen plays versus how much on ball he plays, because he certainly dictates a lot, and I'm fired up for that game. I think it's going to be really cool, but definitely got to keep eyes on that one for the 1 seed, and then obviously got to keep eyes on Rutgers Penn State to see where Maryland's going to fall. So, any closing remarks on the Big Ten here?
No, I mean, obviously these are going to be big slugfest games. Those are always really fun. There's, the school rivalries in the Big Ten, like those are really cool. Obviously, these are how many Big Ten teams, even take Maryland out of the equation in the last 6, 7, 8 years have made a Final Four. It's crazy, like how competitive this conference has become.
No, totally. And Nothing Near Post has been an ACC stan after Coach Connery made his gorillas comment, which came back to bite him in the ass pretty hard. But they have, I mean,
They
hand
won the
up.
conference that year.
No doubt. No doubt. But hand up. I was wrong. The ACC was not better than the Big Ten this year, at least
No
so
doubt.
far. At least so far. So that'll be cool. Keep an eye out on the Big Ten. And here's for all the people that are saying like spread games out. We got two great Big Ten games on Friday night, or at least meaningful games, right?
Yes.
Meaningful games on Friday night. So get eyes on that. Let's see. Do we think Big Ten Network? All right, Big Ten Network. I think Big Ten Network's FS1. Hopefully people can get eyes on those games on Friday night this week. All right, moving on to the last one. If we got anybody left listening, the Ivy League.
Yeah.
The Ivy League. Okay. Top 4 get in. May 2nd and May 4th. The number 1 hosts the entire thing. Is this new, Coach Bulken? I mean, when did Columbia stop hosting? Or am I living in a time capsule?
Man, that it just like sticks out, obviously, right? That they were playing at Columbia. I don't know. They didn't do it last year, did they?
They did not. And they did not. And I can tell you why. Because the reigning champs of the Ivy League are your Matt Madelon-led Princeton Tigers. They won over UPenn last year for their second straight Ivy League championship in Ithaca at Sholkoff Field. So the Princeton Tigers are your reigning champs. Top 4 get in. Number 1 seed hosts. Current standings, Cornell sitting at 4-0 in the 1 spot. Harvard at 3-1 in the 2. Princeton at 3-1 in the 3. Which is interesting because Princeton has the head-to-head, so I'm not sure why the website reads it that way. The 4 seed, sneaky, the Yale Bulldogs. Yale Bulldogs are 3-2 in the Ivy League. And then you got the Dartmouth Big Green, who was made a little splash early on. I think Coach Kerwin's got a great thing going, but they're at 1-3. Surprising head scratcher. You got the UPenn Quakers at 1-4, and then the Brown Bears in a rebuilding year at 0-4. Okay. Remaining schedule. Cornell has got to come to Alston to play Harvard, and I'm not going to say Cambridge because they don't play in Cambridge, and they've host Dartmouth. Harvard obviously hosting Cornell this weekend, and they're at Brown. Princeton at Penn, and then they host Yale. Yale at Princeton for their last game. And we'll stop there. Okay, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that the field is set. Seeding in the number 1 is still up for grabs, and that number 1 seed starts this weekend in Alston. And a little sneak preview: Nothing Near Post is going to be boots on the ground for that Harvard Cornell game. So if we got any fans that are going to be or listening to this and are going to be at the game, make sure you come up and you find the mustache because it'd be great to watch that game with you all.
Yeah, there you go. I think it's been cool to watch Dartmouth, first and foremost, turn around a little bit and start having some success. They had Hopper's Apatello went down with an injury in the UPenn game. I remember watching that.
Killed.
Yeah. Yeah, and they lose a tight one with Princeton. So, again, I think they've got a chance here to get another one with Brown. They kind of ran into a Yale team that's figuring it out too a little bit. They were in a interesting one the other day with Hofstra. Yale was
9-6, right?
Dude, they have the 2 attackmen, 2 offensive kids that you just like. All everybody talked about was these 2 kids were out, and like they got them back now, and Leo Johnson and Chris Lyons, and not to say that they've been bad, and you can see that they like how talented they are, but like the numbers don't show, right? It's been really interesting to see, but they're kind of turning it on when they need to, and in conference, they got one more. Yale's got Albany this week.
Great Danes.
On Sunday. That's always, public-private. That's going to be a good one. Little tester there. I like that.
Public-private. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. And then, Princeton. So, I think you're right. I think it's going to be those 4.
Which is crazy because everyone was calling for Yale to be dead.
Yeah.
In the
No.
water, dead in the water. And I'll say one thing about Yale. Max Krebsky, I believe, is the sole captain for the Yale Bulldogs. That dude gets it. Um, he's a midfielder for them. You don't want to see the Bulldogs in the playoffs.
Nope.
I mean, I know Cornell's the cream of the crop right now. Harvard's got a chance to sort of dethrone them this weekend, but I wouldn't want to play Yale. But I think those three teams, Cornell, Harvard, and Princeton, are definitely at a different level. But I mean, can Yale salvage their season? I mean, I hate to say it that way, but can they salvage their season by winning a semifinal game and spoiling
Yeah.
somebody else's? Because I don't think they're getting in anyways to
No,
the NCAA tournament, I should say.
unless they absolutely run the table. Don't put it past Coach Shea, though. Shout out Dolphins. He's a Lemoyne guy.
Shout out the Dolphins. Comes back to Lemoyne, baby.
Always. No. So it's that's I don't know. Yeah, I think for my money, I think like you're gonna see. So Cornell and Princeton have played already 15-10 game. I think Princeton's got a little more in the tank if they see Cornell again. They're I don't know. I just Cornell is a buzzsaw right now, and save for a absolute collapse in a fourth quarter and some penalties and giving up some man up goals. Like this team is a hair away from being undefeated and looking invincible, right?
I mean, the way that Cornell throws the ball in the net is it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yep.
I don't know. You talk to guys about playing college lacrosse or playing lacrosse at a high level. You break it down, and I'm going to shout out Coach Kerwick right now. It's passing and catching, and Cornell does it better than anybody. The way that those 6 dudes on offense, or 9 dudes, however many they run out there, the way that those dudes can pass and catch, it's insane. It's insane, and they can all throw the ball in the net, right? Obviously, C.J. Kirst, future Tewaaraton winner, is the straw that stirs the drink, but everybody on that offensive unit can throw the ball in the net, and they can pass and catch better than anybody in the country. It's really fun to watch, and I think they humbled the Syracuse defense this past weekend, no doubt about it, but they would have humbled anybody that day. They can throw the ball around the field, the park, better than anybody. Passing and catching is something that the Cornell Big Red do really well. So it'll be interesting to see. I think I'm fired up to be boots on the ground this weekend because, to be honest with you, Harvard scoring at a hell of a clip themselves.
Yep.
And if we look at it, as I pull this up, I mean, have you seen a better? What is this Cornell offense looking like to you from years past or comparatively?
I don't know about years past, but like just looking at the names, like it feels like they've got like one of everything you want in like a player to build an offense, right? CJ Kirst is like the alpha, can do whatever you need him to do. Just fills it up. Ryan Goldstein, little water bug attachment, plays well off the ball, but can break down a defense with it. Michael Long, I feel like he's been around at Cornell forever. Just steady, gets the ball where it needs to go, moves well without it. I mean, you have to with a guy that's as ball dominant as CJ Kirst, right? But then they have a few guys like Hugh Keller's, like this monster midfielder that just, they'll throw it to him at the top of the box and he's just already like at a full head of steam. And it's like, oh, we have to go to this guy because he's going to run through our D midi. And, oh, by the way, CJ Kirst is going to catch the ball on the backside. Awesome. How do we game plan for this? And then,
That's how.
You hope he misses, but, and then they've got what? He's got 74 points. Brian Goldstein's got 54. Michael Long knocking on 40. William Firth, another Canadian. They've got a great mix. They don't have like a lot of guys that like look the same and do the same thing. I think they've all got like a skill set that they all blend really well together. And like you said, they spin the shit out of the ball, it's so much fun to watch. And then, they've got a couple role player glue guys. Shout out Ryan Sheehan, son of
Oh, the legend, the Godfather.
Yes, we call him Dad,
Not Daddy.
not Dad, just Dad. All right. But Coach Sheehan at Lemoyne, his son Ryan is a senior, and I think they do well facing off. Their face-off guys got 7 goals. Like, what? That's not a thing ever. Like, that's Trevor Baptiste numbers.
All right. So, Cornell, Harvard. Okay, looking at Ivy League stats. If you like offense, and I can't see the line for the Harvard Cornell game. Maybe you can quickly as I'm talking here.
I got you.
Cornell, number 1 in the Ivy League in goals for at 176. Harvard, number 2 at 165. That puts Cornell at 16 goals a game. That's insane. That's Miles Thompson. Or that's Thompson brothers at Albany type of stuff. And you got Harvard at 15 goals a game. Okay, so if they hit their average, they're going to hit 31 goals. And I don't know if you can pull up the line, but I can only imagine what the over-under is going to be.
It's 27.5.
Holy cow.
Minus 120 for the over. And Cornell is a 3-goal favorite.
Wow.
Money line. This is actually it's a 3-goal spread. So, but again, a 3-goal spread and the money line, Cornell is minus 345.
Wow.
I don't know, man. Like that, again, Harvard, I think got a big win against Cuse. Like you said it, like they can score for sure. Sam King is legit.
Under-recruited kid too.
Hey, I remember, it's funny. Just sitting back, remembering names, like we've looked at a lot of rosters tonight. I remember watching Miles Bodkis sitting next to you at Showtime a long time ago.
Shout out Coach Zissy, Torrey Pines Falcons, baby.
There you go. But no, man, I don't know.
I'm going to go on a limb. I'm taking the over. 27.5, both teams average 16 or 15. I'm taking the over.
Yeah. But again, like, is a team, if you're going to try to beat Cornell, are you trying to run with them and outscore them, or are you trying to buckle down on defense? And I just don't know that the answer is that.
I don't think there is an answer. I don't think you can buckle down on the Cornell offense.
That's what I mean.
I think you have to outscore them. Now,
yeah.
here's one element that I'm going to have an eye on. Harvard, I know this from watching them play. I'd have to do a little bit of.
They do not face off well.
Oh boy, I don't think they have ever really. They have, as I'm pulling up the rest of Harvard's stats. Harvard has 136 caused turnovers this year. And the reason I'm saying that is because they're going up against Cornell, who has 78. That's a 50.
It's a big spread.
That's 50 caused turnovers. Same number of games played. That's 50 more caused turnovers. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because Harvard rides their tails off. Okay, shout out Coach Kerwick and Coach Johnson.
Big 10-man ride team for sure.
They if it's not 10 man, it's 9.5. Whatever they're doing, I honestly think their attackmen just ride their nuts off.
100%. Sam King goes balls out for sure.
Shout out Coach Johnson and Coach Kerwick. We used to call it Rhino. Ride your nuts off. I don't know if that's an upstate thing or what, but they ride hard. Okay, and if you get that many possessions back off the ride, you're going to be in games. Okay, You're going to be in games. And if I'm looking at this thing, they are holding teams to 71% clearing this year.
All right. So we got to look at the other side of it. What's Cornell clear at? They have to clear the ball well, but
have to. Let's pull that up. And I mean, to be honest with you, when you're scoring 16 a game, your offensive efficiency is pretty high, but certainly you need opportunities against another team that can throw the ball in the net at 15 goals per game. Cornell's clearing the ball at 88%.
That's actually lower than I thought it was going to be. All right.
So,
well, again, they get stops. they do give up goals. Like they give up some goals.
And I mean, here's the other thing too. I mean, 16 and 15 goals per game. I'm taking the over because both goalies. One, Harvard's got the freshman in net. His name escapes me right now. His name is, I want to give him his flowers, Graham Stevens.
Okay.
Okay. Chester, New Jersey, Pingree school kid. Rookie. Rookie coming into a huge game against the number one team in the country. Where's your head at? Right? Where's your head at? And that is
You're looking at the gorilla that scores 8 goals a game.
You're looking at the Torton winner.
Yeah.
And the law firm of Kirst, Long, and Firth. Even though Firth's in the midfield, what is it? Wertheim playing the lefty spot, or excuse me, Wertheim the third guy down there? No, Wertheim's down.
No, Wertheim's UNC now, but I think Goldstein.
Goldstein, yeah, exactly. Future movie producer. Yeah, you're looking at the law firm of Goldstein, Kirst, and Long as a rookie. Buckle up, dude. And it might be that you just got to make one that changes the game. You don't have to worry about having a great game. You don't have to worry about having the game of your life. You got to make one. And then I'm going to look at the Cornell side in net. Okay? Wyatt Nust. Another dude like Ryan Cohen from Florida. Playing for the number one team. Start between the pipes. Lefty. Little lefty. Again, shout out Coach Finn. He's not going to be a guy that's going to lead the record books in Cornell goaltending because they've had some absolute legends come through there. But he's doing everything he needs to do. And yeah, he's got the benefit of having the Tewaaraton winner and the law firm up there at attack scoring 16 goals a game, but he's doing enough. And in these 17, 16, 18, 17 games, it comes down to the goaltender that can make that one save in that one spot. That changes everything, right? So I'm going to have a close eye on that on Saturday for sure.
It's so interesting, too, like with a team like Cornell, like they score so much that if you're trying to just stop the bleeding and they can just keep you from like getting aggressive and trying to go to the goal just because you're like, we have to like take a breath here. You know what I mean? And like teams that sit back on their heels a little bit, like we're like, oh, we got to get organized. Like we haven't had the ball in 5 minutes, like they've scored 4 times. That's almost, that plays as much defense, as anything.
Totally. It's a mindset thing. It's 100% a mindset thing. And obviously, we're not giving enough flowers to Princeton. Coach Madeline, the reigning champs in the Tigers, but they're going to be right there. Coulter Mackesy, I've got him as a second best lefty shooter. I'm not saying overall player, second best lefty shooter in the country. I've got Hiltzy in that spot as far as lefty shooters. That dude can find corners. But the Princeton Tigers, they actually, to be honest with you, with Coach Madeline being a Roanoke guy, I think they love exactly where they are. They
100%.
don't want to be talked about. They'd rather be under the radar. Coach Madeline doesn't want to be that. He wants to be under the radar. He wants to just go out and win ball games.
Can we talk real quick? Inside the Cross posted like an unsung hero of each team. And they made Coach Mads the unsung hero for Princeton.
Come on.
It's on Instagram. It like no disrespect to Mads. You've got some dudes that get up and down the field for you. Like I feel like every time you look out there, you've just got like this deer running up and down the field for them, a D-midi or a pole that just like covers ground. And, to call your coach an unsung hero, just, I don't know. I feel like I hear his name every time I pop on a Princeton game.
I mean, Roanoke goalie, man. Come on.
Hey.
Roanoke College goalie. Give him the unsung hero.
I
Give the dude the spotlight a little bit, all right?
It was a new one for me to see a coach get an unsung hero award.
I'll tell you who I'm giving the unsung hero award to for Princeton, and maybe this isn't that hot of a take. I love Michael Bath's game. Gonzaga kid, defenseman, LSM for them.
Yeah. 25
ground balls, 16 caused turnovers. Finding ways to get stops for the Princeton Tigers. But I think it's really funny as the two of us are sitting here, we're so drawn to Cornell, we're so drawn to Harvard, the way that they're scoring goals. Princeton is exactly where they want to be. Exactly where they want to be. Coach Mads, you know.
Ho hum, just the number 3 team in the nation.
Exactly. And you got Coulter McAsee putting up a 46-point season, knocking on the door on 50, 33 and 13. Nate Kabiri, 19 and 20. Talk about balance. Colin Burns, 21 and 9, throwing the ball in the net, shooting the ball at 41%. Chad Palumbo, okay, 13 and 13 for 26 points. Like, Princeton's exactly where they want to be. Don't let them get hot.
Yo, you know what though too? Another team that like could fill it up last year, and I think tightened it up a little bit on the defensive end. Like those young bucks, Burns and Kabiri, like production's a little down, but their team is better. Like, and maybe they're not playing as fast. I don't know. I don't have the metrics on that, but I think they are a little more methodical offensively. Obviously, what's his name? McAsee is kind of the lead dog there, but Colin Burns and Nate Kabiri are unreal. Like the fact that these kids are sophomores, they're both hanging, multiple, 30-point seasons already plus is crazy.
Yeah.
Chad Palumbo, another like rock star midfielder that could probably go to any other school in the country and have like 27 goals in the midfield right now. He's 13 and 13 in the midfield as an attackman. Like they run him out of the box. He obviously plays more some attack too, but like I love that guy's game too.
Totally. And you know why? It's because Jim Mitchell is an absolute stud. Okay. He spent time in the ODAC as well. We talked about that with Coach Brzezinski a couple weeks ago. But Jim Mitchell, the offense coordinator for Princeton, has done an awesome job with those guys. And you speak of that sophomore class, you were talking about the headliners. I want to talk about Carson Kramer, a West Coast Stars kid out of Kirkland, Washington, sophomore. And listen to these stats. 6'5", 245.
Is that all?
I mean, is he playing Princeton football or is he playing SEC football in the linebacker position? I remember watching this kid play earlier in the year against Penn State. He was running through people, and it was his first college start, first college action. Like, buckle up! You're trying to guard that guy. You guard him with a short. Good luck. You put Palumbo on a short stick on the backside after a rotation of some kind because you got to slide to this absolute monster. Jesus.
If he's not getting the defense spinning, he's running through a rotation.
Jesus. 6'5",
no doubt.
245.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I mean, all right. I think we've beat a dead horse here with the Ivy League. It's going to be awesome down the stretch here. I mean, like I said, top 4 teams are in. I'm going to go on a limb and say that. It's really just realistically just playing for seeding. You probably want to be the one and play the Bulldogs. I'd assume you don't want to catch whoever you don't want to play in that 2-3 game. That'd be nice. Even that's scary.
Yeah. But I think that might be the game of the tournament, though, the 2-3 game.
Totally. But I think overall, I know we've talked a lot about the Crim, but I'm gonna go in on them a little bit because they're the outlier here. Okay, they're the outlier. The Crimson are making their first appearance in the Ivy League tournament since 2016, and it's going to be head coach Jerry Burns' first trip since taking over the helm of the program. Okay,
he's been there that long. That's insane.
2016. Okay, now they made the NCAA tournament in 2022, but they haven't made the Ivy League tournament since 2016. All right, what happened in 2016? You might be wondering. They actually beat the number 2 team in the country, the Brown Bears, led by Dylan Malloy and lacrosse media's current golden child, Larkin Kemp. All right, they beat them 13-12 in the semis in Providence. How? How did they beat the number 2 team in the country? I'll tell you how. And this doesn't get talked about enough. Morgan Cheek, Wellesley, Mass native, stayed at home, played for the Crim, put up a diabolical stat line of 9-1 on 14 shots. 9-1 on 14 shots.
Can't lose, Morgan.
Dude, he didn't do it alone. All right, so it's not like he was a world beater that day. He didn't do it alone. 6 of his goals were assisted, but still, 9-1 on 14 shots is that's something that needs to be talked about more. All right, especially when you beat the number 2 team in the country. And before you accuse him of feasting on extra man, he only had two EMO goals. All right, so 2 of his 9 were on extra man, and he even scored a man down goal that day.
There you go.
So, but if we look at the scenarios and play these out as we sort of close up this episode, Cornell 4-0, they're at Harvard, host Dartmouth. I think the Crim can do it, but if we're, I mean, the way Cornell throws the ball in the net, let's put them at 2-0. They get the 1 seed. Okay, Harvard, they host Cornell and at Brown. They go 1-1. They drop to 4-2. They actually become the 3 seed, which realistically doesn't actually matter because I guess they could be the 1. That matters, right? But the 3 versus the 2 doesn't matter in this scenario. Princeton at Penn and host Yale. I'm going to put them at 2-0. That gets them 5-1 overall, puts them at the 2 seed, and then Yale at Princeton, their last game of the year in the Ivy League, they go 0-1. That gets them to 3-3. They get to be the 4. All right. Now, where it gets spicy is if Harvard beats Cornell. Okay, if Harvard beats Cornell, we've got another one of these tiebreaker scenarios because that puts Cornell at 5-1. I'm going to assume that Harvard then goes 2-0 because they got to beat Brown. That puts them at 5-1. Okay. And then I'm going to assume that Princeton stays 2-0 with Penn and Yale. That puts them at 5-1. Okay. So, and head-to-head wise, Cornell's got the head-to-head over Princeton, but not Harvard. Harvard's got the head-to-head over Cornell, but not Princeton. And Princeton's got the head-to-head over Harvard, but not Cornell. And they all beat Yale, Dartmouth, and Brown. All right. I'm going to need some crowdsourcing on this Ivy League tiebreaker scenario, to be honest with you, because, again, it's like Mandarin for me. But I think if you drill it down with all of those head-to-head options, I think you have to go all the way to like the 4th step, which reads, if a tie still persists, add the goals for and goals against in the games between the tied teams. This is similar to what I think the Big East does.
Yeah.
The teams with the greatest goal differential gets the highest seed. 6 goal maximum differential per game. So again, we're looking at this goal differential for the Ivy League if Harvard can beat Cornell this weekend. Insanity.
Yeah.
Insanity. Well, I mean, unless you got any final thoughts in the Ivy League, I'll give the floor to you real quick.
I just want to know how many goals you think it's going to take to beat Cornell in any game the rest of the year.
18.
18, that's the number. Okay, I like that.
18. And I think Harvard can do it.
You think Harvard can do it? Can they do it more than once?
No.
So you feel better if Harvard loses this next one? Or no, they already played. Sorry, they already played.
To be honest with you, I think with Harvard making their first trip to the Ivy League tournament since 2016, I think they care more about the Ivy League than they do the NCAA tournament. That's a hot take, but I'm gonna say Coach Byrne wants to win the Ivy League.
Yeah. They can do it for sure. So we'll see.
Well,
like that.
I mean, that's over 2 hours worth of conference previews. I appreciate everybody sticking around, listening to this. Coach Bulken, I appreciate you jumping on. Quick shout out before we close up this episode. Coach Sharbaugh and the Illinois Tech Hawks out in Chicago. They got a win this past Saturday. Speaking of conference playoffs, they clinched a spot with that win in the Northern Athletic Collegiate Conference playoffs. So big ups to the Illinois Tech Hawks out in Chicago. But as far as conference previews goes, that's everything you're going to need to know for these next 2 weeks. So everybody buckle up. Enjoy some lacrosse this weekend. Coach Bulken, anything to close us out with?
No, man, thanks for having me. I can't wait to come back again.
Hell yeah, we can't wait to have you back. And I know that you're a longtime listener, so tell everybody what rule number 1 is.
Nothing near post.
Nothing near post.
Hug the pipe.
Cheers, everybody.